Do 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 do. Who told you Wanda's kids weren't real? It was Campea all along. Who told you Vision wouldn't make it out alive? It was Campea all along. Hey guys, welcome to the show. We are here to talk about WandaVision, the series finale, and we got a lot of things to go over here. First of all, good to have you guys. This is our last one. This is, of course, going to be our final open spoiler discussion of WandaVision. What an incredible launch for the MCU on Disney Plus. I mean, seriously, my expectations for WandaVision were okay. I mean, it's going to be Wanda and Vision. It's being done by the MCU and Kevin Feige. It's going to be good. But what I was really looking forward to is Falcon and Winter Soldier. And what I'm really looking forward to is Loki and things like that. And WandaVision just came out and gave us something so different and so unique. And of course, we've got the finale last night. And listen, guys, Ann Campea, my wife, is going to be joining us at the top of the next hour. We're going to be taking a short 5-minute break at the top of each hour just to, make sure we can keep our drinks topped up, keep our voices nice and ready to go. So Ann will be in joining us at the top of the hour. So she'll be in to give some more of her thoughts on stuff like that as well. Great finale. Great finale. What was the finale like the best episode of the season? No. Did they do exactly what I wanted them to do? No. And that's okay. It was the logical conclusion. A friend of mine reminded me that the last step of the grieving process is, and this whole show has been about Wanda's grieving process. The last step of the grieving process is, of course, acceptance. And they brought us to that. And I thought it was done quite well. It wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't exactly what I was hoping it would be, but it ended up being really quite good nonetheless. And I was very, very happy about it. And I hope you guys were too. But we've got a lot of things to talk about here today, of course. I'm going to give you my little thoughts. I do want to go over some things, though, because, like any good show, WandaVision left us theorizing, and all of us got some things right, and all of us got some things wrong. And I want to start off here with talking about some of the things that I got right and some of the things I got wrong. Maybe you guys might want to fire in some of the things you got right, some of the things you got wrong along the way as well. So let's just, I'll kick us off here. All right, some of the things that John was wrong about. One of the big ones that I was very, very sure of. I was very sure of this one. I was sure that the commercial actors were Wanda's parents. I was sure about that. You guys know I talked about that for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, that I was really, really sure that those actors would end up being the representations of Wanda's parents. And of course, we found out last week that they were absolutely not Wanda's parents. So that one went out the window. Another one, then this goes really to the final thing here. Another one was that I really thought, and I've been saying this the whole show, I really thought that WandaVision would end with Wanda being completely broken. Completely broken. Now, what I didn't want to see was a cookie cutter, paint by numbers, regular, where, the family comes together, they all win and they live happily ever after, right? And I really thought this would end with Wanda being totally broken. And it ended up being a little bit mixed. On the one hand, there was more tragedy. She lost this new version of Vision. She lost these kids. She suffered more loss, but she didn't end up completely broken at the same time. So I really thought she would end up dead broken. I thought she would end up dead broken at the end, although she is a little broken. You kind of see that in the second post-credit scene. She's still a little bit broken, but there's that. The third thing going into the finale that I really got wrong, and I wasn't sold on this completely, but I really thought, I bought into, one of the viewers wrote in this theory that since the White Vision is powered by hex magic, then when he comes into the hex, which is all hex magic, he would be super powered, and it was going to take everybody teaming up to fight him. They didn't do that. I thought that was the way they were going to go, and they did not. All right, what was John right about? Number one, Vision wasn't real. I kind of had that theory from the beginning. I don't think Vision's real. And then he kind of dropped hints along the way. He had no memories prior to Westview. During his Modern Family sketch part, he said it's like those are the memories of somebody else. Like, so Vision wasn't real. Was right about that. The kids weren't real. That's when a lot of people push back on me for. I said, I'm telling you, the kids are not real. These kids aren't real. They won't be able to exist outside the hex. And turns out they weren't real. Vision doesn't get out. I said I don't think Vision was going to get out. Of course, the other version of Vision did. The white Vision did. But the Vision we had gone through this show with, he didn't get out. I said the kids won't get out. And sure enough, the kids didn't get out. Now, this is one where I really got a lot of pushback. I said you guys know, from the moment Evan Peters showed up, I said, that's not Quicksilver. I said, that ain't the real Quicksilver. It's going to be a big misdirect. This is going to be a huge, awesome, incredible, brilliant misdirect. Nobody believed me. Turns out he's, what was the name? Ralph Boner, ladies and gentlemen. Ralph Boner, who I guess was imbued with powers because of some enchanted necklace that Monica pulled off him. But I told everybody, I said, that's not Quicksilver. I said, that's not Quicksilver. And sure enough, it wasn't. All right. I also said that the mutants will not be brought up. And this is one why I still never understood why people didn't understand that. Like we just kept repeating over and over again. Kevin Feige said when they got Fox that he's already got the next 5 years planned out and that he was going to execute his plan first. And then he'd get to other stuff. But nobody believes him. Everybody thinks he's lying. And every single Marvel thing that comes out, everybody thinks this is where the X-Men are going to come in. This is where the X-Men are coming in. This is where and they never do. And we came into this one and sure enough, Kevin Feige was telling the truth. There were no mention of mutants or anything like that brought up. Also, I said from the beginning, Mephisto and Nightmare weren't going to be in it. Now, I will admit that when the when the Great White Shark Yo Magic commercial came up, I said, look, I'm still thinking Mephisto and Nightmare aren't in it, but that commercial does warm me up to the idea. I'll still say they're not in it, but if you think Mephisto and Nightmare are coming in, I don't think you're crazy for thinking that because that commercial was very suspicious. One of the other things that we were talking about, that the witness protection person was irrelevant, right? We said from the beginning that witness protection person, I don't even think they were ever going to be mentioned again because they were just a plot device to bring the FBI and Jimmy Woo to Westview, I should say. And once that was done, there's no more need for a witness protection person. They became irrelevant, so I wasn't surprised that they didn't mention them again. And the rabbit was just a rabbit. Like I said, obviously it's a very, what rabbit eats birds? What rabbit eats birds? But I said, it's probably just, just like a black cat is the traditional familiar of a witch. That's just her familiar. It's just her rabbit, man. It's just her rabbit. So there we go. So there's some of the things I got right, some of the things I got wrong. One other thing I think we should probably mention is Hayward. Hayward wasn't the villain. He's a giant jerk. He's a big dick. But he wasn't the villain. He wasn't working. A lot of people theorized he was working with Mephisto. He was in league. He was trying to bring back Ultron, that he was working with Nightmare, that he was working with Agatha. He wasn't. He was just a guy doing his job, but he was a giant dick and broke some rules and ended up violating the Sokovian Accords and got himself arrested. But he wasn't the villain. Giant dick, jerk, yes, but he wasn't the villain. And he got his comeuppance. He got his comeuppance in the end. So there's a lot of interesting things. But I'll tell you the one thing that I still don't get. There's one big question to me that they never addressed. And I never understood. I still don't understand why or how or what the purpose of them was. The commercials. I understand what the commercials for us was, for us as the real audience at home watching the Disney Plus show WandaVision. I get that. But they were seeing the commercials as well in the world. Why was Wanda broadcasting out these commercials? Unless Unless, of course, it was Agatha sending out the commercials to try to force outside forces to push and force Wanda's hand. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, I'm seeing some very well-meaning but misdirected people say, but John, Hayward shot at children. He knew they weren't real kids. He watched WandaVision. He knew they weren't real kids. They were just constructs inside the thing. So shooting guns at children that you know aren't real is not really doing anything wrong. He knew the kids weren't real. Again, still giant dick, still a big jerk, but he wasn't the villain. It is it. He wasn't the villain. Agatha, turns out, was the villain. Anyway. So, but I don't get the commercials. The Agatha part is a maybe thing. I'm not sure. Also, there's this one thing that bothers me about the finale. And maybe they do sort of address it. I'm not really sure. But Wanda did some really bad things. And she knew she was doing bad things. Hence her conversation with fake Pietro saying, so you don't think what I'm doing is bad? So she knew what she was doing was bad. She knew. But she kept holding that town hostage, hijacking their lives, taking their freedom and free choice away and all that kind of stuff. And then she just walks away at the end. Now, again, who's going to stop her? I get it. And granted, at the end of the show, she is basically on the run. She's hiding out in some little cabin in the middle of nowhere while she's getting into Darkhold magic. By the way, let's talk about the Darkhold for a second. So I remember when that book first appeared, turns out that book was relevant. When that book first appeared, you know, I did a quick comparison. We looked at the Darkhold from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then we saw that book. It's like, well, they were clearly two very different books. And I remember I said, well, it's not the Darkhold because just go look at pictures of the Darkhold. This is a completely different book. But I said, and you can go back and watch me say it, I said, the only way it could be the Darkhold is if Kevin Feige is retconning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, while Kevin Feige has never acknowledged Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in any of his MCU movies, he's never come right out and contradicted or retconned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This was the first time he's just straight up retconned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and pretends like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just doesn't even exist, like it's not a real thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the same stuff. The appearance of a Skrull at the end. I think Talos wants to see her, or it might have been Nick Fury that sent the Skrull to her. It's just so much stuff. So much stuff. Although, and I will say this. When it happened at the time, it didn't strike me as terribly weird. But upon looking back at the episode, you look back at one of those final scenes when Wanda and Vision are tucking the kids into bed. And all I can think of is, you know, Vision turning around and saying, "Go to sleep now, children. Mother's about to wipe you out of existence. Good night," you know, sort of thing. That was a little weird to me. Tuck in the children, and let's not mention to them that mommy's about to make a choice to wipe you out of existence. I mean, I get it. She had to. The hex had to come down. I get it. But she was about to wipe her children out of existence by turning off the hex. And she knew that. Also, can I bring up one more thing? I know we've joked a lot about that Vision is basically a $3 billion sex toy for Wanda. But look, if you come home and you find out your wife is pregnant, it's like, and Vision found out his wife was pregnant. Oh, joy. Do you think maybe for a second, Vision should have stopped for a second and said, wait a minute, I don't have semen. How are you pregnant, woman? Like, maybe that conversation might have been one that may come up in a conversation. Just saying. It's a little bit weird. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of things about that. Overall, the show was a triumph. The show was an absolute triumph. Solid ending. A lot of theories, even a couple of mine. I was really looking for that full-blown Shakespearean tragedy, and they didn't give it, and that's fine because it still worked out quite well. They didn't have the big stereotypical happy ending where her and Vision and the children all whisked away to live happily ever after. So that was good to see. And they set it up where bad things are coming for Wanda. Like the book said, she was going to become the destruction of the world. And now she's out there studying the Darkhold, and they even mentioned the name drop Doctor Strange. And, by saying you're going to be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. It's like, but she doesn't have the knowledge yet. So I don't know if they're saying she's more powerful than Doctor Strange yet, or that she will be as she acquires more knowledge. But she's obviously got the raw firepower to do something like that. So, and then where did the other Vision go? It's funny, if you read the comics, the White Vision actually ends up very close to what the White Vision in the comics was. He has all of Vision's memories, but he doesn't consider himself that Vision anymore. So I think we're about to see that. Again, another example of the Marvel fake death universe, but whatever. They're bringing Vision back. So a lot of things to unpack, guys. So let's not waste any more time with me. Let's spend the rest of our time here together today taking your observations, your critiques, your praises, your questions, your theories, all that kind of stuff. We're going to jump in there. What did you think? Not only about the final episode, but about WandaVision as a series. To me, it's an incredibly good start for the MCU on Disney Plus. Much better than I thought it was going to be. I expected it to be solid, but I didn't expect them to get to the real good stuff until Falcon and Winter Soldier. And they crushed it, guys. They crushed it. They did a really, really good job. Anyway, let's move on and start taking your questions here, shall we? We're going to start off here with Anurag P, who writes, nice to hear that Doctor Strange theme at the end. Yeah, you could hear those little overtures in the end there, couldn't you? Thanos writes, I love the finale. I also love people losing their minds and crying over their theories being disproven. I am having the time of my life. And it's true. A lot of people, listen, but that's what happens to everybody, right? It's not just some people. Like all of us, let's not point any fingers. We've all done this. We as fans tend to get a little butthurt when the theories we buy into and believe in don't happen. Then we get a little butthurt. And then we feel a little silly. And then we try to make the show or the movie the problem so we don't feel so bad about ourselves that we had the wrong theory. And listen, that's why I said, I hope they don't do the cookie cutter superhero ending. But if they do, and if they still do it well, then I'll still be happy, okay, it didn't turn out to be her parents in the commercials like I was so sure they would be. All right, it wasn't it. Wanda didn't end the show being completely broken like I thought they would. Okay, they still gave us a good ending. I'm still happy about it. But yeah, you are seeing some people pretty upset today because their theories. Don't judge, because we've all done it. We have all done it, and we will all probably do it again. All right, Steve Cunnin writes, one of two. Man, she looks great. The outfit looked fantastic, by the way. The outfit looked fantastic. I love this finale, especially the godlike being that is the Scarlet Witch. The way she schooled Agatha, wow. Yeah, that was a great final thing there with the fact that she was actually putting up the wards around. That was pretty cool. Although it wasn't the ending you wanted, I do think that she will lose it in Doctor Strange 2 after the post-credit scene, and you'll get Wanda as the Vision. Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of do. I think they set that up. That this whole being the Scarlet Witch thing is going to consume her. She's destined to destroy the world. So I think they are still going to go in that direction. But who knows? We'll find out where they go, man. We'll find out where they go. CJ writes, one of two. I loved the WandaVision finale. Unlike some people who hated that their theories were debunked, I know we all loved the awesomeness Endgame gave us. And I don't know where part 2 of CJ is. So if we ever come across part 2 of CJ, we'll answer that then, CJ. Unbeatable writes, yikes. Wonder if Wanda will be friend or foe in Doctor Strange. I got a feeling she's going to be a problem. I don't know about friend or foe, but I got a feeling she's going to be a problem. Guessing more friend, we'll see. Also, want to see where White Vision turns up. Yeah, when's he going to pop back up again? He was just like, holy crap, I got memories back. It's not me, but I got the memories of my old life. I'm going to take off and figure this stuff out. By the way, how great was that conversation between the two Visions? Like when it says, why are you doing this? I'm programmed to destroy the Vision. I am not the proper Vision, or something like that. And then the White Vision is, I request elaboration. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And then that whole conversation as they're both floating there in the air, I thought that was pretty boss. I really, really liked that. I thought that was great. All right. Steph Coonan writes, I think some people are disappointed because of their own theories. True. Lesson learned. By the way, I'm still on the Mephisto train. That post-credit. Hey, listen, Mephisto, Nightmare, these guys are all still in play. Just because they didn't come up in WandaVision, that doesn't mean they can't come up in Doctor Strange 2 or some other thing down the road. So don't think for a second that just because they didn't come up here that they couldn't come up somewhere down the road. So keep that door open. All right, next up, Suthius writes, I stopped the whole expectation thing years ago, so I was satisfied with this finale. It all worked for me. I do wish it was 10 minutes longer, though. Dude, listen, I wish every episode was longer. One of my ongoing critiques of WandaVision through the series was that I kind of felt like every episode needed a little bit more breathing room. I felt like there was never a single episode that I felt like this was the right length. Like every episode I felt needed a little bit more breathing room, but overall, still really, really solid. Okay. Next up, Onrog P writes, I can't believe they got the head crown to actually look cool. I know, right? Very different from the comic thing, but it did look cool. Up next, spandex yellow for Wolverine. No chance. Been a fan since AMC. Thanks for everything, John. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, they will do for Wolverine what they just did for Wanda. They will massively adapt it. I will tell you right now, the Wolverine costume, whenever he comes in, will have yellow in it. But it will be massively adapted from the comic appearance of it, because that would just look completely ridiculous on the big screen. But we'll see what they do. All right, Suthius writes, I'm glad White Vision wasn't just a cold, calculated upgrade that only followed directives. He found discrepancy in his directive and his logic took over. Again, that scene, I would say that scene between the two Visions talking, for me, is a top 5 scene of the entire series. Top 5 scene. I honestly could have sat there for 20 minutes. Hearing them, the two of them going back and forth, waxing philosophical. I seriously could have listened to that for 20 minutes. I thought it was awesome. All right, next up. Luis Pope writes, thanks for choosing me to be your mom. Feels like it's going somewhere. And did Agnes see Wanda is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme? Yes. Or at least, now remember, the other thing that Agatha said to her is, you've got the power, but you lack the knowledge. So I think the implication there, the implied message is Wanda can be more powerful than Doctor Strange. My guess is if Wanda ran into Doctor Strange right now, Doctor Strange wins. But the implied message is once she learns everything she needs to learn, she'll be more powerful than Strange. So, and that's going to be problematic when Doctor Strange 2, if she is also destined, according to the Darkhold, to destroy the world. So, going to have to see how that all turns out. All right, next up. Unbeatable writes, damn, Darcy busted an Argyle from Die Hard. I mean, one of the things I was a little bit disappointed in the finale was that was the only thing of Darcy that we got. Because you know me, I love Kat Dennings and I love Darcy. I still want to see that Darcy and Jimmy Woo X-Files in the MCU kind of show. I want to see that. Boaz Chapman writes, when Agatha was first hit with the car, I knew she wasn't dead. Oh, we all knew she wasn't dead. But when they did the Wizard of Oz homage, I honestly thought they might have killed her. I thought that was great. Me, Anne, Ray, and Ryan were watching that last night. When she looked under, it was just like the shoes. I totally expected the shoes to then roll up. I totally expected that, but I thought that was a great little homage. All right, Black Rice 19 writes, the 2 post-credit scenes didn't do anything for me. Great show overall. Found finale underwhelming. Hayward just being an evil suit was lame. And again, he wasn't evil. He was just a massive jerk. Like, at the end of the day, like, I still believe, and I think the show totally played this, at the end of the day, his prime, he wanted to save that town. The problem is he wasn't following the rules. And like a lot of characters in fiction, you know, they think the ends justify the means. And he got busted. But again, he wasn't out to kill a town. He wasn't out for world domination. He wasn't working with Mephisto or things. He was just an asshole. Just a total, absolute asshole. I liked it. I really did. And I think the director, you guys remember we talked on the John Campea Show yesterday about the director saying this show will come to its inevitable conclusion. And really, that's what it did. It was, the show was never about mutants. The show was never about Doctor Strange. The show was never about the multiverse. None of those things is what this show is ever about. It was about Wanda and her grief and her pain. And it ended with her coming to a place of acceptance. And while it may not have been what some of us were looking for, or even me, I wanted to see Wanda broken into a million pieces when I knew her kids and Vision weren't going to get out of it, but I wanted to see her like break down into a million pieces and then stand up as the Scarlet Witch, right? But they went another way and I found it satisfying. But hey, man, I hope you still enjoyed the show overall as a whole, even if you found the conclusion there a little underwhelming. For me, I still think the series as a whole was absolutely dynamic. Anyway, next up. Suthius writes, besides a powerful vibranium being, I sometimes forget that Vision is pretty damn smart and logical. I love that philosophical scene between the two. Again, I think that was my favorite scene of the episode. I mean, that second post-credit scene with Wanda hiding out and just in there doing her little pose and reading through the Darkhold and becoming very, very dangerous. I like that too, but that, again, the two Vision conversation, money. Top 5 scene of the series for me. All right. Marcus Penner writes, so when we see Toby swing in during Spider-Man 3, don't get too excited. It's actually just Duncan Dick Balls. Hey, and you know what? It's so funny to me. It is so funny to me. This whole thing, I see so many people so upset that Evan Peters didn't end up being Quicksilver. And I talked about this on the John Campea Show yesterday, but I'll bring it up here again. For years, we've seen fans call on studios to do like little stunt casting like that. Like, oh, get Tobey Maguire for a Spider-Man movie, but, you know, just say he's Uncle Ben or he's a pizza delivery guy, like he was delivering pizzas in one of the other Just do, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. And I've seen fans on my show and others like say that about tons of movies all the time, like little stunt castings. So what does Kevin Feige do? Kevin Feige finds the perfect opportunity to do that and to serve as a massive misdirect. So he does it, and then everybody's upset. Well, why did he do that? He trolled us. No, he didn't. He did the thing that the fan community have been saying they want to see this done more often. He did it. Massive misdirect. And again, nobody should have been surprised. We kept saying over and over and over again, guys, Kevin Feige said that he was going to finish his 5-year plan before he started bringing in mutants and X-Men and all that kind of stuff. He said it, and we repeated that over and over and over again. And I told you guys, this Evan Peters thing is a misdirect. It's a misdirect. And then when it turns out that Kevin Feige did exactly what he said, and it was exactly a misdirect, a bunch of people got upset. Whatever. It was brilliant. It was meant as a misdirect. It was set up as a stunt casting, and they executed it perfectly. Perfectly. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thought on the whole thing. That's my thought on the whole thing. Anyway, where'd we go? Oh, sorry. We had a bit of a jump. Let me get back down to where we're supposed to be. Sorry, we got further to go. Give me a minute. I will get us caught up. 1 second. That's just the problem with being reliant on technology, ladies and gentlemen. Problem with being reliant on technology. Okay, where are we at? We are at... Got to be getting close here. Come on, where'd we go? Oh, I hope we don't have another jump after this. Man, we got a lot of questions to get through here today. Okay, okay. Here we go. So where is that? Black Two Post. Mark. Okay, so there was Marcus. So when we see Toby swinging, there you go. That would be funny. Don't be surprised, though. Don't be surprised. All right, Lee McHenry writes, John, how was the pizza last night? I have my breakfast with my mom when we watch WandaVision together in Ireland. It's a great tradition. I gotta tell you, I am really liking the tradition. I still wish that when Disney Plus airs these shows like Mandalorian, like WandaVision, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I do wish they aired them a little bit earlier so I wouldn't have to stay up to midnight, so people on the West Coast wouldn't have to stay up till 3 a.m. But hey, you know what? It's becoming a fun tradition. Every week, Ann and I get some food, we break out some drinks, maybe her brother comes over or somebody comes over, and we, buckle down and we watch Mandalorian or we watch WandaVision, and soon we'll be watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. So, I'm glad you've got your tradition there too now. It's actually kind of fun being able to have this tradition. So I'm enjoying it. All right, next up. Casey McNatt writes, the Evan Peters reveal just screamed Iron Man 3 to me. Having Ralph be a nobody, be a nobody anybody expected, and having Evan Peters be a nobody. Except Kevin Feige already told all of us he's not actually bringing in anything else until he's got his 5-year plan done. And I've been telling you guys, and I've had so many people writing to me about how dumb I am because I don't realize that Evan Peters is actually Quicksilver of the Fox universe. I'm like, okay, you'll see. Actually, one of our fans, who was it? Something Peanuts yesterday. One of our regular viewers, great regular viewer, was really going at me yesterday. Like over and over and over again. John, you don't understand. I don't get how you don't understand. He's the Fox X-Men universe. And I just said, okay, but all I'm saying is just be ready to deal with your disappointment that it's not, because he's not. He's not the Fox X-Men thing. Just be ready for that. And don't get overly mad when it turns out to be exactly the way I'm telling you it's going to be. And it happens. All right, Sam Fisher writes, what a great finale. Sorry, John, but Hayward weren't full baddie. No, he certainly didn't. I think the next time we see Monica, she is a sword assistant director under Fury. I still think Fury... I think she's going to be the director of Sword. I really do. I think she's going to be the director of Sword because she would have been the next logical heir apparent to it. She was being raised to take over Sword, and then she wasn't there, so Hayward got it. But I think we're going to see her be the next director of Sword. At least I hope so. All right, Amin writes, did you notice / hear the Doctor Strange music playing in the background at the end? Yes, I did. And the camera pans to Wanda hovering in the room. I did. It was a clever little foreshadowing. We know. I'm actually surprised they didn't do the Scarlet Witch will return in Spider-Man 3 or the Scarlet Witch will return in Doctor Strange 2. I'm surprised they didn't do that. I was kind of thinking they would do that, Amin, especially with that little musical touch there. Onrog P writes, crazy to think that WandaVision was originally supposed to go right into Doctor Strange pre-pandemic, and there probably would have been only a few week wait. Well, see, here's the thing. I honestly don't know right now because, and I should have looked this up, but I didn't. Everything has moved so many times. I honestly can't remember what the original release dates were for everything. I honestly don't remember. I'm almost sure that Spider-Man 3 was supposed to come out prior to Doctor Strange 2, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not really sure. And a bunch of people keep saying in the live chat, John, you're wrong about Hayward. You can say it all you want. You can say the sky is purple till your face turns blue, but it ain't going to change the fact that it's blue, my friends. It's blue. Everybody, oh, he's working with Mephisto. No, he's just a guy who's a massive jerk and a dick who was doing his job. He broke rules. He got busted, but that's all it was. He never tried to take over the world. He wasn't trying to, no. He was just a dick. I've been telling you guys this whole time, he's just a giant dick. But he was not the villain of the story. Not the villain of the story. But you go ahead. You keep telling yourselves he was the villain. That's fine. That's fine. I'll keep telling myself that those two people were actually Wanda's real parents. I do it too. But anyway, all right, let's keep going here. Where are we? Oh, yeah. So I honestly can't remember, after all the changes, that everything changed 50, 60 times. I can't even remember what the original release schedule was. At some point, Anurag, I do need to go back and look that up because that's going to be actually really interesting information to know. Well brought up. CJ Legend 89 writes, this was from way earlier, but let's not forget all the movies and end credit scenes that led up to Avengers and Infinity War. Let's enjoy this MCU journey as it unfolds. The wait will be worth it in 10 years. Hashtag in Feige we trust. Listen, I don't even care. I'll be honest with you. I don't even care where WandaVision goes. And I know a lot of people were really concerned. How does this tie into Spider-Man 3? How does this tie into Doctor Strange 2? And I'm like, you know what? I'm sure it will. But I don't really care. Just give me a good show. I'll worry about how it ties into Doctor Strange 2 later, how it ties into Spider-Man 3 later. We can worry about that later. The most important thing is deliver a really good, entertaining, engaging show. And as long as you do that, everything else will work out fine. And for me, they did that. And, regardless of what you thought about the finale, I thought it was quite good. Not the best episode of the season by any stretch, but I thought it was quite good. But even if I had been disappointed in it, overall, the show was just still so much better than I anticipated. So much better than I anticipated, but that's just me. All right, Sam Fisher writes, in the back of my mind, I knew there was no secret cameo. Damn you, Feige, and your mind games, but it was nice to see a Skrull. Yeah, there was a lot of Mr. X. And again, to be fair, you know, a lot of us, myself included, we grabbed on a little too much to that Elizabeth Olsen talking about the Luke Skywalker level cameo. Because as we said on the show a number of times, we got to remember, it wasn't her that said it. An interviewer asked Elizabeth Olsen, you know, in Mandalorian on Disney Plus, they had just had this recent big Luke Skywalker reveal at the end. Does WandaVision have something like that coming? To which all she said was, yes. When you go back and look at the interview, she just said, yes. So, and maybe that to her was the Evan Peters arrival was a big thing, or I don't know. But I think a lot of people, including me, I was guilty of this too. I think that's more on us. I think that the weight for that is more on us for hyping that part up too much. But yes, it still worked as a very effective misdirect nonetheless. All right, Louise Pope writes, interesting that Hex Vision gave White Vision his memories. Oh, he didn't. No. That's not what happened. But let me finish with the thing. It's interesting that Hex Vision gave White Vision his memories up to Infinity War, I think. I wonder if White Vision will turn up in Spider-Man 3 or Doctor Strange 2. This is very, very important to understand, Louise. Hex Vision did not give White Vision his memories because Hex Vision has no memories. Hex Vision didn't have any memories to give to White Vision. Hex Vision didn't come into existence until Westview started, and he had no memories before that. What he did was he helped White Vision access all of Vision's memories that were still inside of Vision. So he used his power to help White Vision unlock the memories that were already in his head. Now, that's not just semantics. I think that's a very important distinction to make, but they did make that very clear. But again, that scene overall was absolutely fantastic. I loved that scene so much. It was so good. And I do think he'll pop up. I don't think in Spider-Man 3, but I believe we're going to see that White Vision pop up in Doctor Strange 2. We'll find out. All right, Suthius writes, LOL, Ralph was just a dude living in Westview. Agatha just happened to pick his house to lay low. Pietro was just a citizen, but we made a big deal. Well, I didn't make a big deal. I said he wasn't Quicksilver the whole time. But don't feel bad about it. That is what they meant for that to do. Don't feel bad that you made a big deal out of it, because the whole point of a misdirect was they what's the word I'm looking for? They induced you and us. They induced us to make a big deal out of it. Hence the misdirect. So yeah, it's not like you weren't making a big deal out of nothing. When Evan Peters pops up on screen and says he's Pietro, you're not crazy for thinking, oh my God, it's the Pietro, it's the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men universe. Because they set it up for you to think that. So yeah, don't feel bad that you thought that. Don't feel bad at all. That was their plan. That was their intention. That was the misdirect. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, 1 of 3. I had a feeling that this show would end with Wanda in hiding or seeking help from Doctor Strange. I really thought the latter after Agnes said she was more powerful than him. Since Wanda is in hiding, it's either she tries to retrieve her kids and that's what breaks the multiverse, or it breaks somehow and Doctor Strange needs her help because she is more powerful. I also think Doctor Strange 2 is when we will see Agnes next. Well, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack. Number one, it is really interesting that in that post-credit scene, we see Wanda, going through the dark. What's her first priority? She's trying to get those kids back. Even though they were never real in the first place, her first priority is to get those kids back. And actually, that kind of has echoes thematically of something that happens in House of M. After Wanda has lost her children, Wanda reconjures her children. She ultimately loses them again, but she kind of reconjures. So there's thematic echoes. It's not a direct translation from House of M to this, but there are echoes of that in there. So I thought that was really interesting. But again, kind of pointing towards that. Number one, Wanda is in hiding. I mean, because she can't be an Avenger anymore. She can't be, not after what she did to Westview. She has to be in hiding, and the first thing she does with the Darkhold is something selfish. She wants to get her kids back. And I just think we're about to see, I still theorize, and I could be wrong, but I'm still theorizing we're going to see her go down a dark, dark path. All right, next up, Mark Blaza writes, this just in, Mephisto theorists now say he will be in Doctor Strange 2 or Loki. Which one is it now, guys? Hey, listen, again, I don't think that's a terrible theory. I mean, Mephisto very well could be in the plans. And he very well could have showed up in WandaVision. Of course, he didn't. But, I mean, I honestly don't think it's a terrible theory. Nightmare either for that. When you understand those two characters, Nightmare either. I mean, those two characters, I believe, are still very much in play. So I don't think any of those guys are crazy for thinking that either of those two guys may still show up in Doctor Strange 2 or in something else. But we'll see how that kind of goes. All right. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, I think Wanda and Monica will become the MCU's next hottest best friend pair like Bruce and Tony. I'm not sure. Actually, did you guys see the news? It's looking like Tessa Thompson and, why am I forgetting the name of the actress who plays Captain Marvel? Brie Larson. Tessa Thompson and Brie Larson have kind of been teasing that they've got something in the works together. And we've known for a while that Tessa Thompson was saying she's going to have like a female-led Marvel movie happening. So we could be seeing a Captain Marvel and Valkyrie movie here pretty soon. That would probably be the hottest pair, but whatever, at any rate. But I don't know. I honestly think we are now going to see Monica. I think they just introduced Monica here. I don't see, and I could be wrong, but I don't see that. I see her now hitching her wagon more to the Captain Marvel 2 thing. That makes more sense. They obviously set up in WandaVision that Monica has drama with Captain Marvel. So I think they're probably going to go in that direction, but we'll see. We'll see. Anything is possible. All right, next up. By the way, they're also suggesting that Captain Marvel and Valkyrie may become a romantic relationship in the MCU. A romantic relationship in the MCU, which, a lot of people get excited about. All right, a lot of people shipping that. All right, where are we at here? Okay, Sam writes, I love a good thought experiment like the ship of Theseus. I think they're cool and its use was clever. Did anyone call Ralph being Pietro? I do know, I didn't personally. I just thought he would be some rando. But I do know that during my show, several people have written in with the theory that Pietro would end up being Ralph. So you know who you are. If you're one of the ones that did it, you nailed it. If you were one of those people. I know several people wrote in. Some people thought he might be Nightmare. Some people thought he might be Mephisto. Things like that. But I do know some people wrote that in. It wasn't me. I didn't think that. I would like to say that I did, but I didn't. So I didn't call that one. But a number of people who wrote in did. All right. Chris Miner writes, even after the finale, I still have questions. I can't wait to tune into the next episode with Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2. I agree. I cannot wait. And by the way, guys, now the countdown is on for Falcon and Winter Soldier, my actual number one most anticipated MCU show on Disney+. That's the one I'm most excited about. All right, next up. Casey McNatt writes, so at the last end credit scene where Wanda was reading The Darkhold, was she hearing her kids from another universe? I don't think she was hearing her kids from another universe. I just think it's in her head. She's hearing her kids saying the exact same things they said when they were on the street with Agatha. And she's hearing that echoing in her head. And I think that was just a way for the storytellers to tell us as the audience what Wanda's doing. Wanda's thinking selfishly. She wants to get her children back. Even though she only knew those two kids for like 3 days. She only knew those children for like 3 days. But they're her children. Right? And she's going to try to figure out a way to reconjure them again without a hex. So we'll see where they go with that. All right. Next up, Suthius writes, if you're going to rebuild and upgrade a robot/android, wouldn't you want to delete or remove all of its old data just in case? Nitpick, I know. Oh, yes. Unless Like, a lot of that data is what gave him his sentience, right? Remember, nobody fully understands Vision. The only one who ever really came close to fully understanding Vision and how he works was Shuri. Even Tony and Bruce weren't able to figure it out. Shuri was the only one who was able to kind of basically break down and understand what it is that makes him work. I have no doubt that the people at S.W.O.R.D. never really fully understood, but they knew that this OS, this operating system in there, whatever, is what makes him a sentient vibranium warrior, a weapon. So you try to layer programming on top of that, I guess. My guess is they just didn't understand it, but to delete it would have deleted what made it what it is. Again, this is all comic book stuff, so who knows? All right, next up, Evelyn writes, Marvel doesn't want to lose Bettany. Now, White Vision. Yep, so now they can bring him in whenever they want. They could say he flew to the moon and is just hanging out and thinking about things for 5 years. They're able to bring him back in now whenever they want. Sylvian writes, Bonjour, Jean. Bonjour, Sylvian. Ça va? Je m'appelle Jean. Comment t'appelles-tu? Anyway. Happy to hear the kids at the end. Hopefully they'll be back, but using the Darkhold to do so will be dangerous. That's why Agatha said she was destined to destroy the world. And that's why Agatha kept saying, you don't know how special you are. No, she didn't say that. She didn't say, you don't know how powerful you are. No. What Agatha said to Wanda is, you don't know how dangerous you are. And she's a bad guy. Agatha's a bad guy, and she's like looking at Wanda like, you're dangerous, lady. Like, you should not have this power because you are going to destroy the world. You are dangerous. That's a bad guy saying that. Bad things are coming, man. Bad things are coming. Okay, let's move on. Sam writes, really interesting that Wanda knows about White Vision, but she doesn't know about White Vision having the memories of the original Vision. That I did think was interesting, but I guess her and Vision never had really the time to have that conversation. So at some point, and again, if you guys know the comic books, like White Vision does have the memories of the original Vision, but he doesn't consider himself that original Vision. Like there's this thing in the comics where he's talking to Wanda and the kids, and he's saying to the kids, I have the memories of your father. I have the parts of your father. I look like your father and I have your father's memories. But make no mistake, I am not your father. And I'm not your mother's husband. As Wanda is crying in the background, right? And they've kind of set it up where they get to have that conversation a little bit later. It's kind of interesting. All right, next up. Snake Jerusalem writes, this was not really a tragic ending, and Wanda did not become a villain. Nonetheless, it was still a bittersweet ending with Wanda becoming a pariah. Yeah, it was a little bit of a mix, right? Because I was really looking forward to this like ending that was very Shakespearean in its tragedy and that Wanda would be completely broken. But it also wasn't just the cookie cutter. Vision dies again. The kids get wiped out of existence. She lost those things again. But she came to peace with it, but they still leave us very much knowing she's very, very dangerous. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of evolve from that and move forward, Snake. Evelyn writes, the scene saying goodbye to the kids was very sad. Yeah, and again, it's like, how do you have that conversation? Okay, good night, kids. Mummy's about to wipe you out of existence. Sweet dreams. Try not to masturbate. You don't want to be wiped out of existence whilst touching yourself, chaps, shall you? That would be embarrassing. Yeah, so it was sad and kind of tragic in its own way, knowing that she was literally about to turn their lights out and wipe them out of existence. So it was kind of bittersweet. All right, Sam Fisher writes, did anyone else notice Wanda's red wiggly woos? I do like that phrase. Was a darker shade of red every episode. Also love seeing Monica use her powers. It was pretty cool seeing Monica use her powers. I did not notice that the tone of her magic was getting darker and darker and red. I will have to go back and look for that because that could be significant. That could be significant. I'll go in and take a look at that. All right, next up. Cam K writes, one of two. Okay, I loved the finale. Stuck the landing. With that being said, I'm a bit perplexed at one part. Was Agatha actually absorbing Wanda's magic? at the end, or was it an illusion by Wanda? Because the runes were up. I'm trying to understand how Wanda recovered from being sucked dry. Yeah, so my interpretation of it, Cam, it's a great question. My interpretation of it was, other than that first thing that she threw at Agatha, that kind of shriveled up just her one hand when they were fighting down in the street. Other than that, I think she was basically doing a massive illusion. And that's why when Wanda looks up and goes, ha ha, and her hands all go back to total normal. So I think she was just letting Agatha believe she was absorbing her power. So no, I don't think Agatha was actually absorbing her power, other than that first shot. That first shot. Again, that's just my interpretation of it, but that's how I interpret it. It's a great question. Maybe we'll get some more clear, direct answer on that moving forward. All right, next up. Ben Rayner writes, hey, John, love the finale. Me too. So I guess Ralph was just Ralph. Also, one thing didn't understand what happened to White Viz. He went up and then, and second end credits, what was that for, I don't know what any of that means. Can't talk in code, guys. Can't talk in code. Well, the end credit was great because that's showing us that Wanda is now delving into the Darkhold. And that's going to make her dangerous. It tells us a couple things. One, she's on the run and she's hiding because, she's done evil things and she needs to be held accountable. So she's off on the run and hiding. Number two, it tells us she's trying to figure out a way to get her kids back. And number three, she's studying the Darkhold, which is going to make her very dangerous. So it did several things. The other Vision, we don't know where he went. And we may not know for years. I mean, that sounds weird to say, but we literally may not know for years where Vision went until he decides to reappear. And he could reappear at any time. I'm thinking Doctor Strange too. All right, one more question, guys, before we take our first break. All right, Lee McHenry writes, wow, that finale, I loved it. Do you think we will see White Vision and Doctor Strange 2? I suspect we will. I mean, who knows, but I suspect we will. Falcon and Winter Soldier in 2 weeks. God, I love Kevin Feige. I'm telling you what, man, I still... Falcon Winter Soldier is the show I'm looking forward to the most, but I do not envy them trying to follow up WandaVision. I don't envy them trying to follow up WandaVision. You know what? I'll do one more before we take our first little break here. So, about the footage we see of Wanda in previous trailers and promos where it seems she was laying down in a white room, where was that misdirect? I'll be honest with you, Suthius, I have no recollection of that. I don't recall seeing that at all. Tell you what, if you can find a screenshot of that, and send it to me. I mean, listen, I know there were a bunch of people out there making fake promos and making fake trailers. I remember a bunch of people got all excited saying, John, did you see the preview for episode 7? Magneto shows up. Oh my God. But I mean, it was fake. That was something somebody made and threw online and called it the preview for that. And a lot of people bought into it. But this one might have been real. I have no recollection of it. If you can send me a link to that to John at thejohncampeashow.com, I would love to see it. But because I don't know if they did put some footage in a trailer that wasn't actually in it. I think that'd be interesting. All right. Cam, one more. Steve writes, people need to understand that with Feige, story comes first. Absolutely it does. Story always comes before gimmick. Everybody wants the big gimmick. Ooh, I don't know, people kept saying, I don't know, pick a name. Have some big random guy, have Ghost Rider show up. Ghost Rider should show up. How the fuck does Ghost Rider show up make any sense? That makes no sense to the story. Yeah, but Ghost Rider's cool. Ghost Rider should show up. Kevin Feige always puts story before gimmick. And you should be right about that. He does. Understand that with Kevin Feige, story comes first. Fans are just going from big moment to big moment and miss the amazing narrative being told. And at the end of the day, here's the truth. Any 12th grader schlub can write massive fan fiction. And then Doctor Strange appears, and then through the portal comes Magneto. Oh, and then so-and-so. Like, anybody can write that. But telling good, foundational, really good narrative is the underpinning of everything, right? The underpinning of everything. And they put story first. And they told a magnificent story. A story, as The Atlantic put it, a tragedy about a young woman desperately trying to deal with her grief. And they did it brilliantly, man. They did it brilliantly. And yeah, maybe a few people wanted to see a few more of the cheap gimmicks, maybe. And maybe they could have done that, but they nailed the story. And that's the part that impressed me personally. That's the part that impressed me the most. They nailed the story. Okay, guys, listen, I'm going to take a quick 3 or 4 minute break here. I'm going to go refill my drink. I'm going to go get Ann Campea, and we'll get her set up. And then we will be back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. Talk amongst yourselves. Go use the bathroom. Pour yourself a drink. We will be right back.
Season finale of WandaVision.
All right, everybody, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence. It took a little bit of a break there. And, of course, Ann Campea is here now. Hey, babe, that's the one everybody's really been waiting for, is Ann. Welcome here, honey.
Hi, everyone.
So just quick, we've already been diving into a whole lot of questions. Just real quick before we get into some more questions, your overall impressions of the episode last night.
Overall impressions are that it ended the way that it should have ended. I think it was the story arc of Wanda, and it ended the way I expected it to. I know a lot of folks had a lot of expectations going into this last episode of maybe surprise cameos or some like WTF moments, but I thought it was a good ending. I particularly enjoyed it, and I thought it wrapped up the story pretty well. but also left it very wide open for what could be, follow-up seasons to this one. So,
by the way, a lot of people in the live chat saying things like, John can go now, Anne's here, John can leave. Just want to say, fuck all you, you're all assholes. Just want to throw that out there. Just saying that now. Screw all of you.
they're not wrong.
But the better Campea, the better Campea. The better Campea is here. So I'll tell you what, honey, let's keep going. I'm going to take some more questions and we'll get your take on some of these things. So I think the last one we had was Steve. We move on now to Tacky75, who writes, I say Feige lays the ground for Young Avengers, and I will die on that hill. It's not just the twins, but getting Haley Steinfeld and recasting Cassie Long. I mean, it could be. It could be. I don't think they are. And we're still a ways off from getting, those twins aren't even there anymore. So, but you never know. The MCU is going to be a very, very big place, Taki, and that could be something that my dogs, I don't know if you can hear my dogs. They're in here howling at us to get our attention. It could be. I just don't see it yet, but that's definitely a possibility. Right, next up, Snake Jerusalem writes, there is some stuff I did not get. Why did White Vision leave without talking to Wanda? Why was Hayward apprehended? And what was his agenda really? Well, I mean, to me, I don't know what you thought, honey, but to me, Hayward's agenda was clear. He was
building a weapon.
He wanted to build the weapon. He wanted to save the town.
Yep.
And he's a dick. He was apprehended because, as Jimmy Woo pointed out, he violated the Sokovian Accords.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, my take on it is Vision may have gotten those memories back. White Vision may have gotten those memories back, but he's not that Vision.
No.
And I think he just needed to take off and go process. I don't know, what were you thinking about White Vision taking off, and where do you think he went?
I totally forgot. That was like my favorite part of the episode, by the way.
Oh, mine
was
too.
that like intellectual battle that was happening. I was getting very turned on by that, by the way. The fact that I'm like, screw like the beating each other up physically, like the intellectual battle that was going on with the Visions was amazing. But I think you're right. I think it gave him data to understand the complex situation at hand. And as an AI, I think he just, to your point, I think he just went away to go process everything that he had just learned. Like there was no point. I think part of it is he also realized he wasn't, his agenda was compromised, right? That he was after the Vision. And I think
you realize I am
Vision
the Vision.
Realized, oh, wait, we're both the Vision.
Yeah, he goes, neither is the ship and both are the ship.
Yes.
And realizing neither of them are Vision, yet both of them are Vision.
Yes.
That was my favorite scene of the show. That was
Me
my
too.
favorite, at least of that episode. At least of that episode. All right, let's move on here. Suthius writes, too early to set up Monica for Captain Marvel 2? No, not at all. Listen, this is what gets me. You need to build something up. No. Did they need to build up Obi-Wan before having him in Star Wars? Did they need to build up Han Solo? No, you drop him in there. So no, I don't think it's too early to drop in Monica with Captain Marvel 2. Hero75 writes, Wanda is a legendary witch more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, and in Endgame, the last Sorcerer Supreme said Strange is supposed to be the best of them. To have both around at the same time is strange and hints that both will be needed to a major threat that requires both of them to end. So obviously that I'm talking about Doctor Strange 2 and where they might be going.
Sure.
I still kind of interpreted, listen, Agatha went really out of her way to emphasize how not powerful Wanda was, how dangerous she is.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, Toots, you shouldn't have this power because you are destined, it says right in here, to destroy the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I still suspect that villain may not be the right word, but I still suspect Wanda's going to be the antagonist of Doctor Strange 2. That like in her quest to bring her kids back, it's going to like rip open the multiverse and cause the multiverse of madness, and Doctor Strange can't let that happen or has to put it to an end. And like maybe not villain, but again, we got a long way to go to find out, but that's what I'm thinking. What do you think Wanda's place is going to be in Doctor Strange 2?
I also think, to your point, there's a long way to go, and I don't think we'll see Wanda until Doctor Strange. Do you suspect we'd see her any sooner?
Well, I mean, the only thing is Feige did say that Spider-Man 3 kind of plays a part in this story arc of WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange 2. So it's possible, but if I had to put $5 on it, I'm guessing we're not going to see her again until Doctor Strange 2.
Right. So with that in mind, then I think it definitely positions her to be in a antagonist spot too. I think if this is the last time we're seeing her, and they, to your point, really in nauseam emphasize that what she's unleashed is going to be really bad for everybody, then yeah, I think that's what it's going to be.
All right, next up, we got Dirk Walker, who writes, my favorite part was Vision versus Vision, mine too, absolutely. Turning into a deep philosophical debate, so true to character. Vision may be my favorite MCU character now, and as Ann and I were both just saying, that was also our favorite. I think it's a top 5 favorite moment of the entire series.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I request elaboration. I'm like, oh, this is so good. So good. All right, Cam K writes, Wanda recovered before she absorbed her magic back, so it must have been an illusion, and she was making Agatha think she was absorbing her power. Yeah, I agree. That is the way at least I interpreted it, that she was just letting Agatha think she was absorbing Wanda's power when clearly she wasn't. And then, she pulls up the hand and say, how's this, bitch? And he's like, she's totally fine. It's like, okay, now I'm going to kick your ass. And then she goes about doing that. I thought that was great. All right, next up, Mark Blazer writes, finale was solid. I love the ending. Liz looks hot as in the new costume. Hooray for Ralph Boner. They just say that Feige sticks to the plan. Awesome. You and I didn't have it because... You and I, and somebody wanted to jump up in your lap. That's one of our dogs. Our other dog, Shadow's running around on the ground here, but that's Lily, who loves her mama. What did you think about Wanda's costume? I thought it looked great.
I thought it looked really good. Although I might be in the minority here and say I was disappointed to see her have to change into the costume. I thought it would have been pretty cool if she just ended the battle in her normal mom clothes, because... why? I get the moment. I get like, okay, she is now Scarlet Witch and here it is visualized. But I also would have been okay if she just had that entire battle in her mom jeans and her hoodie.
But you know what they like to do in the MCU, right?
I know they do.
Thor, okay, Thor's already in his clothes, so what do we do? Oh, let's his eyes. Now he's serious. Like,
I know.
Now his eyes are all lightning and Wanda's in the actual outfit now. It was a sexy as hell outfit, though. It was a totally sexy. Oh.
I don't know. I would challenge that with Agatha's hocus pocus witch costume.
You and your brother you should have heard these two. Anne and her brother last night were just savage about Agatha's outfit.
They could have made her. They done her wrong. They did her wrong. Even in the cavern or whatever basement where she had Scarlet Witch in her like little dungeon
bunker there, yeah.
She had like these like substitute teacher pants on. This poor lady. They could have dressed her better.
All right, next up we got Snake Jerusalem, who writes, Agatha apparently survived, but where she's now, she brainwashed her. She made her think she's just Agnes hanging out in that town now, and no one's going to bother her, so she's probably just going to be in her house, in house arrest, trapped in this new mind thing until Wanda needs her. So I do think we're going to see Agnes again. Entertain Nerd Studios writes, good episode and teeing off the multiverse of madness. And by the way, Evan Peters can still be Quicksilver. We just didn't got the answer yet. No, they were very, very clear. He was Ralph Bonner, who owned that house. He lived in that town. He was not Quicksilver. We just didn't get the answer yet. We did get the answer. They were very clear about the answer.
Maybe his middle name is Quicksilver.
Is Quicksilver. I'm Ralph Quicksilver Boner. You can call me RQB for short. Maybe they did that, I suppose. A 3-story arc, WandaVision versus Spider-Man 3, or WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2. I mean, yeah, I think that's it for the Evan Peters thing. I think it was just a brilliant piece of misdirect casting. It was utterly fantastic and brilliantly done and totally worked. But yes, make no mistake, that's not Quicksilver in any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, Cam K writes, so the Mephisto door is still open. Also, boom, Darkhold John, straight name drop. Yes, you said it was a possibility, but you heavily cited elsewhere. But I was very, very clear. I said, I don't think it's the Darkhold. I didn't say it was a possibility it could be the Darkhold. I said, that's not the Darkhold. I said, the only way it can be the Darkhold is if Kevin Feige is straight up retconning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and basically smacking every Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan in the face, which is okay with me because I'm not an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan. But I said the only way that's the Darkhold, because we put up the pictures. I said, this is the Darkhold that's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This book is clearly not that book. They're completely different. The only way that's the Darkhold is if they're retconning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's what they did. That's what they did. Kevin Feige has never acknowledged Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's never straight up retconned them either. So I thought that was very, very interesting that he basically, Kevin Feige just said, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't real, everybody. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has nothing to do with my MCU. And I wasn't anticipating that, but that's what he did, and I thought it was kind of surprising. All right, next up, Kyle writes, love the show overall, but the fact that they made Evan Peters a throwaway character was like a slap in the face, in my opinion. No, it wasn't, because Kevin Feige already told you that he wasn't bringing in any mutants or anything like that. He said, I've got my 5-year plan. When we're done my 5 years, then we'll do that. And last I checked, hasn't been 5 years. And if only there was some handsome online film pundit who has been telling you since he showed up that that's not Quicksilver. Fortunately, such a handsome devil is here.
Where?
Don't you start. Don't you get into it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was a brilliant misdirect. Like, I'm sorry some people are upset that their theory didn't come true, but it was just and I told you guys, this is a misdirect. It's a brilliant misdirect, but it's a misdirect. It was not a slap in the face. It was an utterly pure stroke of genius misdirect, and it totally worked. It totally worked, Kyle. All right, next up. T-Edge1 writes, I liked most of the episode. Also, does the Darkhold in this mean that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is officially not canon? I pretty much think it is. I think this was pretty much it. This is Kevin Feige saying, say goodbye to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anything you thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had any relevance to our universe, this to me was Kevin Feige saying Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is officially non-canon. It is not a part of our universe. So there you go. And that's not something I thought they would do. All right. Tyler writes, so glad to keep Agatha alive. Catherine Hahn will be back. Also love the mention that Wanda can be more powerful than Doctor Strange. Where does that leave him? That's an interesting question. Because what I was saying a bit earlier was that I think what Agatha made clear is you've got all the power, but you don't have the knowledge. So without the knowledge, I don't think she's as powerful as Doctor Strange. Once she acquires all the knowledge, she's more powerful than Doctor Strange. What do you think is going to be her role? Like, understanding that with everything that we just heard, like going into Doctor Strange 2, how is that going to stack up?
I don't know. In my mind, I don't know that they coexist.
Really?
I don't know. I don't think they coexist. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, I mean, we know Wanda's going to be in Doctor Strange 2. Like,
right.
that's already, so I just don't know. What do you think about the whole Agnes thing? Like, they obviously leave Agatha alive. Do you think, I mean, a lot of characters in the MCU don't die, but we never see them again. Do you think we're going to see Catherine Hahn again?
Oh, yeah. I think we're definitely going to see Catherine Hahn again, which I can't wait to see her used in that capacity, right? Where now I think she's at Scarlet Witch's beck and call. And so when she needs that help, she's going to pull that card. And when does Doctor Strange come out?
I can't even remember.
I
think in 2022.
It's one of those things where
it's not terribly far off.
I'm probably, as a casual fan, gonna forget, and then when Agnes comes back, I'm gonna be blown away because I will have forgotten that she was a part of that.
All right. Next up, Tyler writes, so glad to keep. Oh, sorry, that was Tyler. Snake Jerusalem writes, if White Vision memories are restored, doesn't that mean original Vision is resurrected? Not technically. If so, why was he included in the memorial in Far From Home? So again, in the comics, and again, comics are the comics, they're not the TV shows or the movies, I get it, but they do sometimes borrow thematically. In the comics, they make it pretty clear that White Vision isn't actually Vision. He's got Vision's memories, but he does not consider himself Vision at all. He considers himself a new thing, a new individual, a new creation. And just because he has access to Vision's memories, he doesn't consider himself that. And it seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like that's the way they're going in here. So we'll find out. We'll find out more, I'm sure, as we progress. All right, next up, Mark Blazer writes, John, I would like to thank you for this engagement of the fandom. Regardless if we agree or disagree, we'll be back for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Dude, listen, I tell you what, I love hearing all the theories.
Me too.
I love hearing all the theories. I mean, I got so excited by some people's theories. Like this,
I know.
Somebody wrote in this Vision theory about he was born with hex magic, so when he comes in the hex, he's gonna be super powerful. I'm like, oh my god, that's such a great theory. Like, I just love hearing people's theories, even when I disagree.
Yeah.
I love people reacting to my theories that they disagree with.
Yeah.
And I just, to me, it's part of the fun. It's just part of the fun. Like, you know, honey, like I get really excited about doing the pregame shows and about doing these reviews, and it's just, and part of it is because the fact that we all have different perspectives on what we're going to do. And so even when, like, my theory about, I thought WandaVision was going to end with Wanda completely broken, like totally broken. I knew she was going to lose Vision. I knew she was going to lose the kids, but I thought she so wants your attention. But I thought it would end with Wanda, instead of being in a place of acceptance, I thought it was going to be Wanda completely broken.
Yeah.
And it didn't turn out. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
it was still great.
100% of my theories did not turn out.
100%.
So 100% did not turn out. But I can't count how many there's not that many shows that inspire people to think in this way. I think this is one of those rare shows that has everybody talking about it, theorizing, and it's, to your point, it's been so much fun to just hear people's theories, and hopefully everybody enjoyed the finale, even if your theories didn't come to fruition, because that's what this show did, is it brought us together to talk about all of it.
Yeah. Now, again, I see some people in the live chat trying to justify the whole notion that, well, wait a minute, he's got Vision's body, he's got Vision's memory, sees Vision. Again, I would refer you to the comic stories of it, because it really does lay it out that Vision just, he is a new, it's like this. Let's say you got a new computer and you plug in a different hard drive. You got access to all that information, but it doesn't mean it's your old computer. It's actually, it's a new machine. And this Vision considers himself a brand new creation. He is not the person Vision. Like everything that made Vision what he was, including the Soul Stone, or the Mind Stone, I should say, it's a different thing. He is a different person. He's made out of the body parts that made up Vision, and he was able to access those memories. But what made Vision who he was, remember, they talked a lot about that in the previous movies, it was just gone. It's different now. And again, they explain it in the comics better than I'm explaining it now, but it's going to be interesting to see how they evolve that as they go, what direction they decide to go with that. All right. Thanks for that, Mark. Next up, Dustin Curran writes, wow, when Agatha woke up the townspeople, they did good at capturing how uneasy these people were, and how fantastic they were, and how they pressured Wanda. You know what was really interesting to me? That talked a lot about how horrifying this whole experience has been for the townspeople. When Dottie shows up.
Yeah.
And Dottie was like, can you please let my child out of her room? I just want to see her.
Yeah.
Like, she hasn't seen her daughter. And somewhere in her mind, she's conscious of what's happening. And she hasn't seen her child. And it's
scary.
Like, they really played that out. Let us go, please they really played that out. I thought it was very effective. What did you think of it?
No, I agree. I thought it was eerie, right? Because we've been watching these people trapped for how long now? And so every time that they would snap somebody back into the reality, it was really eerie and creepy. So I think I agree. I think the townsfolk did so well in terms of reacting to snapping in and out of reality.
All right. Let's move on here. Next up, that was Dustin. Next up is Manny Garcia, who writes, so did Vision give White Vision the true Vision memories? I thought he didn't remember anything, or was it vice versa? Again, it was him helping White Vision unlock the memories that were already in White Vision. Yes, the Hex Vision didn't have those memories himself. He doesn't have any memories of what the real Vision was. but the real Vision's memories were locked somewhere deep inside the mind of White Vision, and he was able to unlock those memories for him so he could have access to those memories. At least that's the way they explain it in the show. All right, the Movie Guru Movie Reviews writes, I guess Agnes of S.H.I.E.L.D. officially isn't canon now, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is officially Agnes of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's your next TV show, Kevin Feige. Agnes of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Officially isn't canon now. Yep, that's pretty much the message that's been sent here, I think. All right, Suthius writes, Hayward is a corrupted official, not good at all. Oh, I don't think he's necessarily a good guy. I mean, he's a dick. He's a giant jerk. Just the point was he wasn't a villain. He wasn't the villain of the show. That's the thing. Alan McIntosh writes, so I'm not disappointed because it was a good episode, but I'm a little bummed out that we didn't see Doctor Strange or something. I love her suit, though. Again, I could give or take the gimmick. Doctor Strange showing up would be a cool gimmick, but it's really just like a band at a rock concert getting a cheap pop from the audience going, hello, Milwaukee, and getting everybody to cheer. I mean, that's ultimately what it would have been. And again, it would have been cool, but that's why I was saying I actually don't think, I said I thought there was a 35% chance Doctor Strange shows up. I didn't think he was going to show up. I thought it was more likely that Wong would have showed up, or like an auxiliary character there. But I wasn't surprised that Doctor Strange didn't show up. What about you?
I just been thinking about it, and I can't see what the context would have been for them to show up. And ultimately, I'm glad that they kept it focused on Wanda, because imagine somebody coming in. This is like Mandalorian, right? Like Luke Skywalker came in at the very last episode and kind of stole that episode in some ways. And I think for this show, I think the focus needed to be on Wanda. It should have ended with Wanda, and having any other cameos like that may have taken the spotlight off of her.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it wasn't needed.
It wasn't needed. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. I don't think it was necessary.
Okay, next up, we've got Elif Bayrazili. I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing your name. My only disappointment is that we didn't get more Darcy. Overall, I enjoyed the finale. I could always use more Darcy. Yeah, but again, like you were just saying, hon, they kept the focus on... This isn't the story wasn't about Darcy. The story's about Wanda, her grief, Vision, what's going to happen with their kids. They kept the time, still very limited amount of time, on the main things. Yeah. She popped up at the end, but I still want to see that Darcy and Jimmy Woo show. I want to see a Darcy Jimmy Woo show really, really badly.
She was in it for what? One scene, and then they mentioned she took off right away too.
Yes, which was weird.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's purpose to that.
I don't know.
We'll find out later if there was purpose, or if she just wasn't available for filming.
Yeah.
that day.
It could have just been that practical, right?
All right. Next up, Cam K writes, my guess with the White Vision is that he may have gotten Vision's memories, but not the emotions that came with them, and he still can't feel. Yeah, again, they talked a lot about the things. What is it that makes Vision Vision in the previous movies? And my guess, Cam K, like you, again, and I'm just guessing here, my guess is that part is gone. That part's lost. Shuri was never able to finish that part of the process in Infinity War, so that part of Vision is just gone when he died. When he died, that part of him was gone and can't be recovered. So that's my guess at anyway. We'll see. Maybe they can come up with some other plot device to say that he's still there somehow. Suthius writes, technically, Vision is dead in Far From Home. Well, yes. And as of right now, this Vision has just disappeared, and we don't know when he's going to pop back up. It could be years. Like, literally, it could be years before we see the White Vision on the screen again. Although I suspect it'll be in Doctor Strange too, but we'll see. Nick C. writes, can we just take a minute to appreciate this is our first piece of Marvel content in a year and a half. Thank you, Kevin Feige. We needed this. Not only, and this is the part I was saying a little bit earlier, not only is this the first new piece of Marvel content that we've had in ages, this was a really strong start for the MCU on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
The bar has now been raised. What has this show done for you as far as your expectation level? Like, next up is Falcon and Winter Soldier, but what does this do for your expectation levels now?
Ooh, I'm one of the people that goes in with no expectations. Like, even for WandaVision, I didn't watch any trailers. I had no idea what the show is about. I think that helps. I mean, I commend Disney Plus, though, because this definitely raises the platform for their streaming service. I think a lot more subscribers, I'm sure, just to check out the other Marvel shows that are coming up.
All right, next up, we got Nick C, who writes, that was Nick C. Taki75 writes, so is Wanda now the MCU's Hellboy, a good guy who is nonetheless destined to destroy the world? I mean, there are definitely similarities there, right? There are definitely similarities there. We'll see how much they go into that. Again, I predict dangerous things ahead for Wanda. I think the days of Wanda being a straight up hero, an Avenger, those days are now done because of what's happened in Westview. But it's going to be curious to see how far down that road. How many more Hellboy similarities do we see? It's actually a really good comparison, Taki. Let's see where they go with that. Dino Vader writes, 1 of 2. Greetings from Switzerland. In the second end credit scene, we saw Wanda in full Scarlet Witch mode searching for her boys. I don't think she was searching for her boys. It seems that Belly and Tommy live on as Wanda heard them calling out for help. I think Mephisto has the boys. Will we see Billy and Tommy again? Again, if you go back and play it back, I think the voices you heard were an exact replay of them calling out for her for help earlier in the show. I think Wanda is simply looking for the power she's going to need to bring them back, to recreate them again. Now, why would she do that for her boys and not Vision? I don't know. She knew these kids for like 3 days. Literally, she knew them for like 3 days. But it's interesting that her first thought is to go towards doing something selfish. But again, I don't think the kids are lost. They literally, we saw when the hex was coming down, the exact same thing that was happening to Vision was happening to the kids. They did not exist outside of the hex. They weren't real. And so they vanished and were wiped out of existence just like Vision was. So now the thing is, if I've got all this power, I want to recreate them. Only I don't want to have a hex in order to have them living like birds in a cage. I want to recreate these children. And I think that's going to lead her down a dark path and cause problems. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll find out soon enough. All right, next up, Micah T writes, Vision, listen, boys, your mother and I really prepared you for this, Wanda, but you were born for it. What a freaking awesome line. True, but I didn't understand that line. Like when she turns to her kids, you were born for this. Really? They were born to do battle? Sending these kids into a fight, these kids who are 3 days old, into a fight with a bunch of soldiers with machine guns?
There were like two really awkward lines. That was one of them.
I thought it was I agree. I thought that was an awkward line. What was the other awkward line to you?
Oh, when they're like, Monica was like, line? This is all you they don't know what you sacrificed. They'll never know what you
sacrificed for them.
I'm like,
that was dumb.
I'm like, but you're the reason why they were in this position in the first place.
So. You put these people in a cage and you
very confused.
Put them in a cold, dark cellar where they're a cold and shivering thing. And then you let them out. Oh, you sacrificed for them. What are you talking about? You're the one who put them in that spot in the first place. I remember when they said that in the show last night. Like I audibly said out loud, that's a stupid thing to say.
I know.
Oh, wow, Wanda, they'll never know what a hero you are when you sacrifice. She's the one who put them in there in the first. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty dumb thing. Now, I see some people in the live chat trying to justify saying, well, she did it involuntarily. No. She did not do it involuntarily. Because once she became aware that she was doing all of it, she had the choice to free those people. And like in that scene, the Halloween scene, I brought this one up before. She was talking to Pietro, so she like kind of tips her hand. She's like, so you don't think what I'm doing is wrong? She was aware. Maybe she didn't know when it first happened. But at some point, she became cognizant of the fact that she was controlling this town. And she was in charge of the narrative. And like, when she was like, and then we look back right to episode 1, like as the boss is choking on his dinner. That was Wanda who did that. Because he was pressing her. Why? Answer the question out. And then all of a sudden he's choking and his wife is begging Wanda, stop it. But with the smile on her face, stop it. And then finally Wanda goes, help him, Vision. It's like, holy shit. Like once she understands that, and again, when she comes out of the hex with the drone to throw the drone at Hayward's feet, she knows what she's done. She's created this giant hex and is forcing these people to live in it. I'm sorry. The excuse of she didn't do it on purpose, that doesn't exist anymore. That's gone. That's not a thing. It's like a burglar breaking into a house who thought the house was empty and then getting startled by the owner of the house being home and shooting them in the leg. Okay, maybe that was a total accident. But then you shot them 4 more times. That wasn't the accident. So yeah, Wanda doesn't get a pass on this. Wanda does not get a pass on this. Anyway, let's move on here. Suthius writes, I think it's Fury summoning Monica to join them. Yeah, it's clearly either Fury or it's Talos. It's one of the two. You're probably right. It's probably Fury. Mary writes, I hope fans learn a lesson in expectations from this and apply that thinking to Spider-Man 3 moving forward, because theories are that. So theories for that are very wild. Yes, the theories for Spider-Man are very, very wild. I don't know if you've heard a bunch of the theories or not, honey.
No.
I know you try to avoid that stuff.
I do.
But the theories for that, listen, again, I think the lesson here for everybody is this, what we've been talking about the last few weeks, is that theories are great. It's fun to theorize and speculate. That's what we do, and we should. But we can't get so attached to our theories and our speculation that we start making our enjoyment of the program or the movie contingent upon them doing what we had as our theories.
Yep.
Because once we do that, we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Agreed.
Like, theorize, have fun, speculate, and then at the end of the day, when WandaVision's over, I can say, okay, I was wrong about this, and I was wrong about this, and I was wrong about this, but I can also sing a song that says, you know, who told you Wanda's kids weren't real? It was Campea all along. Like, we can do all that. We can celebrate the ones we got right. We can talk about the ones we got wrong and say, cool. And now let's move. But too many fans, and we've all been guilty of this, too many fans become so invested in their theories and they make it so personal that they then make their enjoyment of the movie contingent upon that movie doing what their thing was. And if they don't, then they get mad at the movie or they get mad at the show. And we're just setting ourselves up that way. So I completely agree with your sentiments there, Mary. Completely agree with your sentiments. All right. Crash Woodson writes, the line, when you let us sleep, we have your nightmares. Woo, from Norm. That was a powerful line. How interesting and terrifying. I'm sure for the townspeople this was. That was a great line, as a matter of fact. That was an awesome, awesome line from him. That was a really good one. Good observation, Crash. Ryan Lohner writes, does everyone in Westview now just have to live alongside Agnes, still acting like it's a sitcom? That seems like its own kind of torture. That was what I got out of that. Like, and she also didn't want to say to Agnes, like, they won't bother you. I think she said like a line like that, which is, I don't know if she just brainwashed all of Westview into not realizing Agnes was living in that house.
Right.
But I kind of got the feeling like Agnes isn't going to be walking around town. I think she's kind of basically under mental house arrest.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think they're going to do with Agnes? What is Agnes's status right now?
Endless possibilities, but I think the gist of it is that she's trapped in that state. And she won't be able to do anything. It's as if somebody left her on that stake and they all disappeared and she's just there.
All right, next up, we've got Aces who writes, Peter Evans, you mean Evan Peters, or White Vision are not Luke-level cameos. Again, nobody ever said there was a Luke-level cameo. An interviewer asked Elizabeth Olsen, hey, Luke just had this big thing there. Does WandaVision have something like that come along? And she said yes, probably thinking that White Vision or maybe Evan Peters was. But she didn't come out and say, hey, everybody, you think Luke Skywalker showing up in Mandalorian was big? Wait till you see what we've got going up. And it was people like you and me that kind of took that and ran with it and overhyped it. So that's on us. That's on us for doing that. All right, James Argenta writes, I like the episode, but I wish it had an oh my God moment like Mando did with Darksaber in season 1 and Luke in season 2. Yes, I know I'm being a whiny fan. But listen, you get accustomed to it, right? When you start looking for the gimmick, but also look at it this way. There was no real need for narratively, there was no point in any sort of big gimmick moment. When you really sit down and think about it, and think about the fact this was a movie about Wanda, her grief, and her trying to process and get through all of the loss that she suffered, who would it have made sense to show up? Like with The Mandalorian season 2, there was the whole storyline with Grogu, with Baby Yoda. And then they found Ahsoka, and Ahsoka said, if you send out the signal, there's possibility that a Jedi that is out there can find the signal and come and find Baby Yoda and come and find Grogu. And that was all connected in with the whole story of the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian. You know, who is this Baby Yoda and what is ultimately going to be its destiny? It tied in, but when we think about it, it really didn't make sense for anybody else to sign. Like anybody else showing up at this point would have just been a big gimmick, you know? Hello, Milwaukee! That's all it really would have been. And so it kind of made sense. But yeah, I mean, they do get us buzzing, though, and they do get us talking, me as much as anybody else. All right. Where are we next? Elif writes, so White Vision flew away. Where do you think he went? Which movie do you think he'll pop up in next? I mean, where? I have no idea. Literally, maybe the moon. He may have just gone to sit on the moon and ponder for a while. I suspect we will see him pop up in Doctor Strange 2. I have no reason to believe that. That's just my suspicion. All right, Isaiah Campbell writes, hey, John, I think the most important thing, and by the way, Isaiah sent like $20. Thank you, Isaiah. I think the most important thing people should do for the next 2 weeks is spread awareness for the disappearance of Agent Franklin. Yes. Also, it would have been hilarious if Ryan Reynolds was Ralph Boner instead of Pietro. Yes, that actually would have probably been really funny. But that is one of the questions, honey, that I said I wanted answered, and we never got an answer for it. Earlier in the series, Agent Franklin crawled into Westview and came up looking like a beekeeper. And his role in the show ends when Wanda looks at him and says, no. And then it rewinds back to the thing, and we never find out what happened to Agent Franklin. Did she kill him? Did she evaporate him? She didn't throw him out of the hex because remember when Monica came out of the hex the first time, Hayward said, we have our first-hand account for what's going on inside there. So obviously Franklin never came out. Mm-hmm. They never told us what happened to Franklin. Do you have any theories about what happened to Franklin? Because I certainly don't.
I think she
You see, because if she killed him, that takes things to a whole new level. That takes it to a whole new level. I don't know. I have no idea what they did with him. It's very, very interesting to me, though, Isaiah, because if she just wiped him out, that needs to be talked about. But anyway. All right, next up, Cam K writes, even if Wanda gets possessed by the Darkhold in some way, and that corrupts her and makes her evil, and somehow gets fixed, she's still not redeemed. Oh, listen, again, she did something that needs to be a reckoning, what she did. She has to be held accountable in some way, shape, or form for what she did. And I don't think the Darkhold needs to make her evil. I just think it's going to be like the Hex all over again. I think she's going to want to find a way to get her kids back, to hell with what the consequences are. Even if it means ripping open multiple dimensions and ripping all these and creating a multiverse of madness that Doctor Strange has got to try to stop, and that will stop her from having her kids. I mean, I don't know. What I said before, honey, was that you remember the whole, what Kingpin's plot was in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Kingpin lost his family, so he decided, I'll just rip open other dimensions to try to find them again and bring them into mine. Maybe that's what Wanda tries to do. Use her Scarlet Witch powers to do that. So I don't know. Is Wanda what? Is she evil, or is she just going to be dangerous?
Maybe she gets her way. Maybe she just lives in another universe where her family is intact and she can live in this universe and Doctor Strange can live in his, and that is how they coexist.
Could be. All right, next up, we've got Kyle writes, also, Olsen looks like a goddess with that outfit. No doubt, man. That outfit was fire. It looked great, and they found a way to make it look awesome. Abel Leon writes, got Incredible Hulk vibes after the post-credit scene. Yeah, a little bit, because of course, in Incredible Hulk, Banner goes off and hides away in the wilderness to try to master his power. She's kind of doing the same thing. It's a good observation. That's a good comparison, Abel. Nick C. writes, shout out to the John Canoes community. Probably meant, I've got a feeling there's voice dictation going on there. To the John Canoes community, the amount of buzz every Friday after the episode has been great to see. The MCU is back. And It has been great. It has been so much fun, both on Thursdays with our pregame show, Fridays with our open spoiler discussion talking about it. It just makes watching these shows that much more fun, that much more enjoyable. And I cannot wait to do it again with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thanks for sending that in, Nick. All right, next up. Danny Sanchez writes, in my opinion, the amount of misdirects was not good. Kind of leaves a sour taste. Not a terrible ending, but just meh. Rest of the season, though, amazing. Again, to me, there was only one real misdirect. There was only one real misdirect, and that was the Pietro thing. That was the only real misdirect. I can't think of anything else that was really like a big misdirect in the show. I mean, unless you guys do, but I can't think of anything else in the show that was really a big misdirect. Can you, honey, off the top of your head?
No. I think for what it's worth, I think everything was much more obvious than I theorized it to be. So
100%.
100% it was there all the time. So I think that was the misdirect.
I see somebody in the live chat saying, oh, but they said devil's in the details. Yeah, but I said that's a standard saying. It was just people took that and made something out of it. It reminds me of like when Pietro said, get out of here, you little hellspawn, or something like that. And people said, he said hell. That means Mephisto. It's like, no, I've seen lots of movies and TV shows in real life where they call like children, you little demons, your little whatever. I didn't really think that was a misdirect. I just thought that was kind of common language that people kind of hooked onto and kind of made theories out of. But that's my take on it. All right, next up. The next up on the John Canoes community discussion, Danny Sanchez writes, in my opinion, the amount of misdirect... Oh, no, that was Danny. I'm sorry about that. Next up, Dan Mashall writes, if the story of WandaVision were a 2.5-hour movie, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, but the week-to-week and slow build really raised expectations for a mind-blowing finale, and I was let down. Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I was not let down. I thought it was really quite solid. I thought it was the logical conclusion of the movie, but that's the beautiful thing about these shows, Dan, is that they are all subjective. And just because they hit me a certain way doesn't mean it needs to hit you a certain way. And that's the way it ended for you. And I appreciate that. But for me, I got to say, even though they didn't nail that one thing I was kind of looking for of having a really broken Wanda at the end, I still thought they executed it really well. And as you stand back and look at the story as a whole, I thought it was excellent. But you didn't have the same experience with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your point of view on it is no better or worse or no more or less valid than mine. So, hey, that was your experience, man. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite as good as mine. All right, next up. Jar Snokes writes, previously on WandaVision, ruined episodes for me. I immediately knew Wanda would use only the witch that casts the runes can use her magic to defeat her. Okay, but I don't know. I didn't. I mean, it can be said that in every TV show, when they do the previously on this show, and they, like Supernatural, when they do the previously thing, right? If they show you like a demon character from season 5, you're like, well, I guess that demon character is going to show up in this episode today.
Yep, happens.
That happens. It didn't totally ruin I mean, I think it's hyperbole to say that because that one moment might have been spoiled for you, that ruined the whole episode for you. I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. But yes, you're right. The previously ons in TV shows can sometimes tip the hand of what is coming up in an episode. And you're right. That is something that all shows should probably pay a little bit more attention to. You're probably right about that. All right, Nick C writes, do you think the disappointment many are discussing will cover up the greatness of this show? The story arc for Wanda was made her a T3 hero to me. I don't know what T3 means, but
top 3.
Top 3 maybe? Yeah, maybe top 3. I don't know. Different people deal with them not having their theories work out to different degrees and to different extremes. So I'm not totally sure about that. Look, how other people react to a movie or a show is their business, and it's on them. I mean, how I react to a movie and TV show, nobody else is responsible for that other than me. Only I am responsible for how I react to a movie or TV show. And the same is true as for everybody else. And I can't be worried about how other people feel about it. All I can worry about is how I felt about it, and then express how I felt about it, positively, negatively, middle of the road, whatever. And so I don't know how that will affect everybody else. Is up for everybody else to interpret for themselves, I suppose. I guess that's the best way I know how to put it. All right, next up, James Argento writes, this show showed me with intro. Okay, this show showed me with intro of Darkhold. Feige considers shows like Shield or Daredevil, like Lucas considered the EU. Yeah, well, I mean, what is clear is that Feige was throwing away Agents of Shield. That's clear. Feige was basically just told all of us, Agents of Shield is not canon to my MCU, just so everybody knows. Now, the Netflix Daredevil stuff, I never thought Kevin Feige was going to treat those as MCU canon. I still don't. But him bringing up the Darkhold doesn't mean he won't. I mean, him casting Mahershala Ali, who was in Luke Cage, and now Mahershala Ali is Blade, that kind of tells us and hints to us that he has wiped away the Netflix Marvel shows as well. But I don't think the Darkhold wipes away. We'll still have to see. I think the jury's still out. I think Kevin Feige is going to brush away the Netflix stuff, but we don't know that. And I don't think the Darkhold suggests that one way or the other. It definitely does for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I don't think it does for the Netflix stuff. I think we still have to wait and see what Feige's overall approach and point of view on the Netflix stuff is going to be. But I do think he's going to sweep it away, but we don't know that for sure yet. All right, next up, Louise Pope writes, the teacher in Spider-Man 2 obsessed with witches. Not such a crazy theory anymore. He goes, witches. Yeah, that was great. Again, I think that had nothing to do with what happened in WandaVision, but that was a great line, Louise. That was a absolutely great line. And yeah, now we know maybe it wasn't such a crazy theory. All right, Dan Michelle writes, personally, I felt like that finale had major Amazing Spider-Man 2 vibes, was more of a commercial for things to come rather than a satisfying conclusion. Oh, Dan, I will thoroughly disagree with you on that. This was a beautifully constructed, self-contained narrative character story about a tragedy of a young woman dealing with her grief. That's what this show was. There's no. You can feel disappointed by the last episode and all. That's all valid and that's all fair. But in no way, there's no way you can look at WandaVision and say, oh, this was nothing but a setup for something else. Screw that. The setups for other things were inconsequential. This was a great character-driven narrative story about the loss, grief, and coming to acceptance of those things of Wanda Maximoff and becoming the Scarlet Witch. There was definitely that. Now, whether you thought it was good at doing that or bad at doing that, that's all up to our own individual opinions and interpretations. But there is no way of looking at this as, oh, this was just an amazing spider. No way. I gotta, all due respect, brother, I gotta completely disagree with you on that. But that's just me. All right, next up, Nick C. writes, walking out of Endgame, I feared my love of the MCU would fade as my favorite hero, Steve Rogers, was gone. This show has restored my faith for the future. I'll tell you what, honey, when the Endgame ended, I strongly wondered, and I still think to a degree we were right, that now that it had crescendoed, like the whole MCU was building up to Endgame, and then it hit its climax and crescendoed. 20 plus movies, 10 plus years, crescendoed in this big thing. And I thought, like, you know, after sex, you just want to now roll over and you're exhausted. You're done. The climax has happened. The crescendo has been hit. And I think a part of that is true. You didn't hear as many people buzzing about the MCU, but then a weird thing happened. Like the pandemic hits. Mm-hmm. And now countering that coming down off the climax was the fact that we've gone so long without any MCU that almost kind of built. I don't know. How do you think that happened there? Are you surprised by this? Did the delay in the pandemic actually help our anticipation for the MCU? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think through time, you start to miss things, right? And it was really an obvious amount of time that was passing. We got so spoiled with movies coming out. Sometimes I think 2 movies coming out in a year, and it was always there. And so when we didn't have that, and then amplified by the pandemic, which has kept everybody at home,
Yeah.
I think it absolutely has heightened everybody's interest in WandaVision. But all of that aside, WandaVision is such a good show that hopefully everybody had a chance to consume it, however, which way you were able to. But I think that it was the right way to kind of step back into the Marvel universe.
All right, let's do one more here. That will be at the top of the hour. So we're going to take, again, we're going to be taking, this will be it for Ann. Ann's got other things she's got to do. But at the top of every hour, we are going to take a short little break so I can refill our drinks and all that kind of stuff. So Crash Woodson writes, Hayward trying to take out the twins. Gah! That makes me hate. Luckily, Darcy for the win with funnel cake truck collision and the capture of Hayward. Again, I did personally... Hayward knew, just like the rest of us did, that the kids, because he watched WandaVision, that the kids weren't actually real. So yeah. I have no problem with him trying to take out the kids who were superpowered beings interfering with his soldiers. So I had no problem with that. Again, major asshole, big dick. But, I mean, he wasn't literally trying to kill children. He knew they weren't real. They were just constructs of the hex. Like, we all knew that. But I don't know. What is your final conclusion on Hayward?
I don't think he was that evil. I think to your point, he was just an asshole.
Right.
He had an objective. He wanted to try to see if he could do it, and he did it. And then that's it. I don't know that we even see that character again either.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see Hayward again. Some people were theorizing that Hayward could kind of become like, oh, I forget the name of the character in X-Men, who's the military guy who's just trying to wipe out mutants. If like Hayward would kind of become that type of a character who's just has no trust of superpowered beings and wants to take them all out or something like that. I don't see that happen. I think you're right. I don't think we see them again. I don't know. Do you guys in the live chat, do you think Stryker? That's what it is. Somebody was saying Strider. It's not Strider, Stryker. Stryker from the X-Men universe. Like he could be like the new version of Stryker.
Unless him and Monica have some unfinished business or something.
Maybe, I guess.
That's the only thing I could think of.
But at the end of the day, he was just a dick who wasn't even actually all that smart. So I don't know. He wasn't even actually all that bright. So I don't know. I don't think we will see him again. Personally, I don't think we're going to see him again. Okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take just a couple of minute break. Refill the drinks and give you guys a chance to use the bathroom, whatever. And we will let Ann get back to her stuff. Honey, thank you so much for joining us here today. And thank you for having Lily. Hey, Lily. No, she's not interested. Where's Shadow?
Sleeping.
Oh, she's sleeping down at your feet. So thank you guys for being here. Where can people follow you and all of your stuff online, honey?
You can follow me at Ann Campea on Instagram and Twitter. You can also check out my professional website, theeverydaypm.com, on management topics. And thank you guys for letting me join. This was a lot of fun. Honestly, I loved hearing all the theories this entire season. It's been fun to do this with John. We haven't done reviews in a long time, so hopefully I'll be back for some future.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, baby.
Yeah. So I'll see you guys not too long from now. So take care, everybody.
Okay, guys, so we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The Johnny Canoe Show will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as the Johnny Canoe Show took a little bit of a break there. Got my drink refilled. And as I walking the dogs before going back to work, it's good to have you guys back. By the way, I'm going to let you guys know that I am going to be turning off the super chat feature in about 3 minutes. So if you do have a observation, comment, theory, question that you want to get in on there, you got about 3 minutes to do it, and then we will be shutting it down. So then we will just take the remainder of the questions that we've already got waiting and already sent in. So you got about 3 minutes to get more in if you so choose. Okay, let's keep on going here. Where do we leave off? Walking event game, Hayward's trying to take out the truck. Oh yeah, there we go. By the way, everybody's mad at Hayward for trying to kill the kids. Wanda did kill the kids. Anybody want to talk about that? Wanda killed the kids. She wiped them out of existence. She took them out. She took out Vision too. Why is everybody mad at Hayward? I'm just saying. Okay. Okay, next up. Let's go with Cam K writes. So, are all these people in the town going to be Men in Black mind flashed or what? How does this not become world news? That's a very good question, Cam. That is a very, very good question. I am not sure about that. Like, how are, because first, okay, look, Wanda can't be allowed to get away with this. I mean, she's got to be, look, I'm not saying she needs to get the death sentence, but there's got to be some accountability. She needs to be held accountable for what she did. And so did Wanda just mind wipe everybody in the town to forget that? Like, remember, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but did she not say to Agnes that nobody in the town will bother you? Like, was that her basically suggesting that she was doing a Men in Black mind wipe of the town? That's a very, very good question that I don't know the answer to. If you guys do, jump into the comments and leave your thoughts there, but that's a very, very good question. All right, next up. We've got, was that Cam? That was Cam. Next one up. James Argento writes, was I the only one who thought the location of cabin in second scene was like Weapon X based in X-Men 2? You know what I thought? I'm not going to lie. When the camera started in the second post-credit scene, sweeping along that landscape and everything, I thought the camera, instead of landing on some little cottage cabin in the middle of nowhere, I thought it was going to like land on some kind of temple, and it would go inside and Doctor Strange would be like, I sense something. Like, I didn't think that before the show started, but as it was going around, it's like, this kind of looks like it's going to end on some kind of temple in the hills or something, and Doctor Strange will be there. But they went on to, they did it like kind of like the Hulk kind of ending, and I thought that was a really good way to end it. All right. Crash Woodson writes, I think my new nickname for Hayward is Hey Turd. It's the name fits to me. It's not a bad nickname. That would probably be, again, I don't think we're ever going to see the dude again, but that's a good nickname for him. All right. The Impossible Something writes, that was awesome. Scarlet Witch costume looked great on Olsen. Also, I bet some fans will be like, engineer reveal coming in Doctor Strange too. Yep. Turned out it wasn't. And again, to the engineering reveal. Look, I was as swept up, you guys know this, I was as swept up in the engineer reveal as anybody. I was totally as swept up in it as anybody. But at the end of the day, I was having a discussion with somebody and they were saying, well, the show really hyped up this engineer. I said, well, wait a minute, time out. The show didn't. There were literally 2 single lines, one in one episode, one in another, where Darcy says, yeah, I think I can design a vehicle that will get in there. And Monica basically says, okay, good. I know an aerospace engineer that might be able to build it. That was it. That wasn't hyping it up. That was us making a big deal out of that. And then in another episode, Monica literally says, great, we're going to meet my guy in an hour. That was, honestly, the show didn't hype it up. We hyped it up. We're the ones who made it an issue. The show didn't make it an issue. We took something the show said and we built a big hype thing around it. And that's on us. That's on us. And I'll take responsibility for it too. I was part of the problem in that. But anyway, that's just kind of the way I kind of took it. All right. Next up, what do we got next? That was the impossible something. Yes. Next up is KM Reviews writes, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. What a journey we had. Wow, and I am very satisfied. I agree. This entire narrative, this entire story was so beautiful to watch and so different from anything else the MCU has done so far. It may not have been the exact ending I was looking for, but it was still quite satisfying. And, as somebody wrote to me and said, John, remember, the final stage of the grieving process is acceptance, and that's where this led us to. It led us to Wanda coming to a place of acceptance. And I thought it was quite beautiful, the way they did it. Not exactly the one I would have done or I was looking for, but it was quite good nonetheless. All right, next up. James Argento writes, I think Wanda messing with the multiverse leads to kids missing in Spider-Man 3 and Toby, Andrew, Fox, and Molina in MCU proper. Maybe that could be a thing of it. Of course, in the in some leaked set footage or leaked set photos from Spider-Man 3, we see a bulletin board up with some missing children posters. Some people, like myself, theorize, could this somehow tie into WandaVision? Of course, it's unlikely because it's so many months removed, but maybe, James, maybe that becomes one of the connective threads, or maybe it's completely unconnected. We'll find out soon enough. All right, KM Reviews writes, funny thinking about when those first 2 episodes released, we had zero idea the journey we would end up taking. Just wow, mic drop for Marvel. Oh, absolutely. You go back now, you think back to those first couple of episodes, I mean, something was clearly wrong, like with the guy choking and stop it. Like something was wrong, but I was not prepared. You're right, KM, for that journey was about to take us on. I think it's really cool when you think about, I already know some people that have gone back and rewatched the entire season, and I think I need to do that as well and look at it from that new perspective. So good thoughts there. All right, Timothy Platt writes, great. Now I'm going to be thinking about Wanda hearing her kids at the end of that, and that means until Doctor Strange 2 comes out. And again, like Anne was saying, maybe we see Wanda again before Doctor Strange 2. It's possible, but it is probably more likely. I think you're right. We probably won't see, I'm guessing we probably won't see her again until Doctor Strange 2. Okay, guys, just to let you know, I am about to turn off the super chat feature. So if you want to fire one in, you got about 10 seconds left. About 10 seconds left to fire in something using the super chat feature before I shut it down, and then we'll just get through the rest of the ones that we have. So we're going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have turned it off. Okay. So hopefully we will get through all the questions that have been sent in up until this point. If not, we will do a companion video this weekend, of course. But we've now shut down the new questions that could come in. Okay. Let's keep on rolling here. That was Timothy Platt. Next one up is Obs626 writes, the only complaint I have is the lack of consequences for enslaving an entire town. They really just watched her walk away and no one said anything. Well, I mean, I will say this. I'll give it this. Because you know me, she's got to be held accountable. But who is going to do anything about it right there and then? There was nothing anybody could have done. And it does show us there are consequences. She is now on the run. She's in hiding. She can't any longer just go back to the old Avengers compound or anything like that, right? Like she's now gone. She has to go and hide. She can't be out in public. She can't show her face. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of other consequences, if any, they do a little bit moving forward. But honestly, what was Monica going to do? What were the soldiers going to do with their little guns? Like what was anybody going to be able to do at that point? After just witnessing what she did, if she decided right now I'm leaving, then what you do is thank God she's leaving and you let her go. And when we'll see what other future consequences there are as we move forward, I think. All right, next up. Ryan Lohner writes, Wanda almost getting Oberyn martelled was definitely not on my radar. We even hear her skull starting to crack. I mean, really? Here's the one thing about that scene. When Vision had Wanda by the head, he could have smashed her head in a split second. Like that whole thing of him just holding her and more and taking forever until the other Vision comes along and stops him. If he had really been wanting to crush her head, he literally just would have picked her up and gone, pop, done. So I'm watching this and I'm like, I get it. They're playing it out for dramatic effect. I get it, but it's a little eye rolling because if the Vision, who can like pick up a bus and rip it in half, if Vision had grabbed a human head and decided he was going to smash it, he would squish it like a grape without a second thought. It was just be done. But they just kind of played it out for dramatic effect. I get it. You got to have some drama and you got to give it a few moments for the audience to worry and then let the other Vision comes in. But it was a little silly that they did this. You're right about that, Ryan. You're right about that. All right, next up. Jord MCHG writes, a little disappointed by ending, and it's not because there was no cameos or no mutants, etc., but more, it feels like they went the Disney way and not a dark way. Yeah, see, for me, I had two opposing things, right? I was looking for the big Shakespearean tragedy. I was afraid of the cookie cutter standard comic book ending. And what they ended up doing was something in the middle, right? Vision didn't get out alive. The kids didn't make it out alive. She suffered more loss. But instead of ending really super broken and everything, she comes to a place of acceptance and leaves. So it wasn't the thing I was hoping for. It wasn't the thing I was worried about it being. It ended up being somewhere in the middle, and I was okay with that. I'm okay with that. It still worked for me, her coming to that place of acceptance. Again, I was really looking for that Shakespearean tragedy, but I like that they didn't just do the whole thing where, yay, the kids lived and her Vision's back and everybody forgave them because they were the big heroes and the sun comes up in the sky and, you know, Nickelback plays as the credits, I don't know why I just mentioned Nickelback, as the credits start to roll and everybody's happy, right? They didn't do that. And I'm really glad they didn't do that. It was, again, somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I see where you're coming from, Jordan. I do. I see where you're coming from on that. All right. Crash Woodson writes, really liked the Vision versus White Vision fight and then the conversation they had afterwards about each of their own existence. It was fantastic. Again, Crash, my favorite part of the episode. Both the fight between them was cinematic. The fight they were having was Marvel movie scale. And it looked great. But then it ended perfectly with the philosophy, right? That was wonderful. My favorite part of the episode. Cam K writes, not only was this a great show, but it introduced me to a great and entertaining guy. That's you, John. Oh, thank you, man. Looks like Wanda might have done some good after all. Well, thank you so much. And if the WandaVision stuff is how you found our channel, thank you very much. I'm really glad that you're here. And thanks for being a part of our discussions, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the kind words. All right, next up. KM Reviews writes, Darkhold, Ralph, Skrull, mid and end credit sequences, epic fight, emotion, awesome Vision philosophy, cliffhangers. This show was great, man. I'm telling you what, the show was fantastic. Now, the finale I thought was solid. I thought they stuck the landing, but you know, there's a difference. Like Mandalorian season 1 stuck the landing, and Mandalorian season 2 stuck the landing, but Mandalorian season 2 stuck the landing on a different level, right? To me, WandaVision stuck the landing. Not Mandalorian season 2 stuck the landing, but more like Mandalorian season 1 stuck the landing. So yeah, that's where, but overall, the show was incredible. What an incredible start for these guys. Ryan Holman writes, not my favorite episode, but still really good. This show has been a great ride, great cast and story. Looking forward to Falcon and Winter Soldier. Man, I'll tell you what, my expectations for Falcon and Winter Soldier, maybe this isn't a good thing, but my expectations for Falcon and Winter Soldier have now absolutely gone through the roof. Absolutely gone through the roof. All right, next up, James Dobson writes, I don't care what anyone else says. I loved that. The action was good, but the MCU has always been, has and always will be for me about the characters beautiful. That's the difference, right? I remember when I had Kevin Feige on my show that one time, he did talk about that. You got to make it about the characters. The temptation in comic book movies, he once told me, is to make your movie about what characters can do. when really they should be about the characters themselves. And so even if you go back and look at like Kenneth Branagh's first Thor movie, they could have made that movie about what Thor can do, but instead they made it about Thor. You look at Captain America, the First Avenger, they could have made that movie about all the things Captain America can do, but they made it about Captain America. And that's always been kind of the heart of it. And they did get right back to that again here in WandaVision. I completely agree with you, man. I think that was a great observation. Cam K writes, at one point, I thought Vision was trying to get White Vision to think himself as the real Vision, which would result in White Vision needing to destroy himself. I'm not going to lie, Cam. I exactly thought the same thing too. Your programming says you must destroy the Vision. You are actually you are in possession of the biological body of the original Vision. Therefore, your programming suggests you must destroy yourself. I totally thought that's where they're going with it too. Kind of like a war games playing tic-tac-toe to a draw. That's kind of what I thought they were doing, but they didn't. And I think what they did was better, but I exactly thought the same thing, Cam. Cam Reviews writes, cliffhangers. What's Vision doing with his memories back? Whose house is Agatha going to live in? Oh, that's a good question. What happened to the rabbit? It's just a rabbit. Where is Phil? And where is Phil's piano? My guess is Phil got his piano back after the magic show. That's my guess. He got his piano back. But yeah, what house is Agnes going to live in? That's a very good question because, okay, yeah, she's just going to live in her house arrest. But I didn't even think about that, KM Reviews. Something for us to ponder moving forward. All right, next up, Crash Woodson writes, Jenkies, that new Scarlet Witch outfit was amazing. It absolutely was. And Wanda diving into the Darkhold and its contents could be bad. Oh, not could be bad. It's going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. And Agatha gave us all the foreshadowing. I thought Agatha says, you are dangerous. You're going to lead to the destruction of the world. You can't handle this. I think Agatha gave us all the foreshadowing, and let's see where they go with that. All right, Crash Woodson accidentally typed in the same thing. No problem, Crash. Josh Jones writes, I feel both satisfied and Luke Skywalker level trolled. The show ended beautifully. Just wish I didn't let my expectations get the best of me. And hey, listen, we all did to a degree, right? We all did to a degree. Like when we first talked about, again, the talk about the Luke Skywalker level cameo, we're always quick to point out, remember, Elizabeth Olsen didn't say that. It was an interviewer asking her a question, put it like that, and she just kind of said yes. But that was kind of us. But me, particularly, the one I really allowed myself to get hyped up for was the engineer. Like, I didn't necessarily think it would be Reed Richards. I didn't necessarily think it was going to be this, but I really did let myself get hyped up for that one. That one I got kind of hyped up for. And I really shouldn't have, because at the end of the day, it was like literally 2 throwaway lines that they said in the show. But like we as fans do, I grabbed onto it and I hyped up this whole idea about what that could mean. And I got excited about it. And at the end of the day, they didn't do it. And the episode, I think, what was it? The episode 7, they did that. Anyway, at the end of the day, it was still great. It was still a great episode. But yeah, I mean, we let ourselves do that sometimes, man. All right, next up, Ryan Holman writes, that last credit scene had me so confused. It seemed that at the end, even though Wanda was still upset, she moved on. But that post-credit scene makes it seem like she hasn't. Dual personality? I don't know. No, I think there is a difference between accepting and moving on. I think there's a difference between accepting and moving on. And by the way, even though I turned off super chats, people can still send in super chat badges, and ordinary people send in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, ordinary people. Oh, you're right. No, she has not moved on. I think she has come to grips with her loss, but accepted that, I mean, she's come to grips with it. She's accepted. Accepted is not the same necessarily as moving on. And you're right. She hasn't moved on. She's now been given this other possibility to get back that which she lost. And it could lead to something more tragic and more destructive than what her hex around Westview was. And maybe they'll go that way, maybe they won't, but it's something for us to keep our minds or our eyes on, Rylan. All right, next up, KM Reviews writes, so if the residents always dreamed about Wanda's nightmares and the kids are always sleeping, therapy, anyone? No kidding. But I mean, the one of the parts that really horrified me the most was the Dottie thing. When Dottie said, please let my daughter out of her room. Okay, big deal. Her daughter's been stuck in her room. I haven't seen her, and was like, oh my God, Wanda was keeping these people from seeing their children. It's like, holy crap. Like, yeah, it was dark. It was dark, man. Yeah, therapy. Crash Woodson writes, Ralph Boner, gives me a whole new meaning to was Peter, Ralph Boner, gives a whole new meaning of that was Peter. Oh, I get it. Peter Maximo. You know what? I'll be honest. Can I tell you guys something? I'll be honest. Because I said that I should have mentioned this when Ann was here, but in the scene, when they cut back into Ralph's house, well, we didn't know it was Ralph yet. When they cut back in there and we see the inside of the house, it reminded me a little bit of the inside of Peter Maximoff's house in the X-Men movies. Remember how he had his ping table and his video game? The inside of it kind of reminded me a little bit of that. And I said out loud, because you guys know me, I've said from day one, that is not actually Pietro. I said that from day one. But when in last night's episode, they went inside the house and we saw the kind of, eclectic way it was kind of put together. I went, oh my God, it is the X-Men. I said it out loud. I said it to Ann and Ryan. I said, it is the X-Men Quicksilver. And then they made it very clear it wasn't. But for a second, they had me. When they showed the inside of the house, I thought that reminds me too much of Peter's basement in the X-Men movie. But turns out it wasn't. But they had me for a second, guys. They totally had me for a second. All right, next up. Timothy Platt writes, I'm convinced Wanda won't be the villain in Doctor Strange 2, though. Antagonist, sure. Villain, I'm not buying that. I'm kind of the same thoughts there, Timothy. Antagonist, maybe not villain, right? Villain implies they are evil. They are evil. And I don't think Wanda is evil, but I do think she's selfish. And I do think she'll put what she wants ahead of other things. And I like the way you put that. I can see her as the antagonist of Doctor Strange 2. Maybe not the villain, which implies evil, but the antagonist. I like the way you put that, dude. All right, Rylan Holman writes, sorry, John, but Hayward was a villain. No, he wasn't. You can keep saying it all you want. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. It don't make it true. Just like we were saying just with Wanda. I believe like he was an asshole. He was a total jerk, but he wasn't an evil being. He wasn't there to, gain power and to help Mephisto. He wasn't the villain. He just wasn't. He was an asshole. But at any rate, I understood and would have been fine with them going your route. The actor playing him did a great job. Oh, I think he did too. But I think at the end of the day, he's kind of inconsequential. I don't think we're ever going to see him again. I could be wrong, but I honestly don't think we're ever going to see him again. I just think he's a total asshole who doesn't think he's an asshole. He doesn't think he's an asshole. He thinks he's doing totally the right thing. This makes sense. This is what needs to be done. But he's a total dick and an asshole. But villain? Nah, he wasn't evil. He was just a total asshole. All right, next up. Crash Woodson writes, when Jimmy Woo gets out of the handcuffs and says, flourish, referring to back to when he saw Vision, say this at... Okay. When Jimmy Woo gets out of the handcuffs, he says flourish. I don't remember that. Now, granted, I only watched the episode once. Normally, I watch the episode at midnight, and then I usually watch the episode again the following day before we do the spoiler reviews. But I did not have a chance to watch it for a second time today, and I should have. So I don't remember that. Referring back to when he saw Vision say this at the magic show. That's a really good observation if that's the truth, but I don't remember that. But if that's true, that's really cool. All right, next up. Cam K writes, in the comics, Agatha's signature cat is named Ebony. Kind of sounds like a bunny. Maybe. Intentional? Probably not, but one can dream. See, I think, you know what my guess is? I initially, by the way, that's another thing I got wrong in WandaVision was I never thought Agnes was actually Agatha Harkness because I thought it was too on the nose. Like the witch costume, Agatha's brooch, the very fact that her name is Agnes, Agatha Harkness. I thought it was too on the nose. But I think maybe if they gave her a pet black cat, maybe that they would have thought that was a little bit too over the edge. I don't know. But yeah, Mark, I should have put that on my list as one of the other things that I got wrong. Was that I thought that Agnes was not going to end up being Agatha Harkness. And clearly, obviously, she did end up being that. So that's another one I got to put on there. All right, next up. The Impossible Something writes, When it dawned on me that they were saying goodbye to the kids without letting them know it was goodbye, that hit me hard. Such an emotional ending. Yeah. Yeah. Like thanks for letting me be your mom. It's a good line. But, you know, if one of the kids should have said, hey, Mom, you and Dad aren't about to go downstairs and kill us, right? Right, Mom? You're not going to just let us be wiped out of existence right now, right? Huh? Like, I don't, it's awkward. It's a little bit weird. I mean, Wanda had to bring the hex down. She had to bring it down. But, and I don't know. That's tough. Should she have told the kids? I mean, there's a good argument to be made that no, just let them go to sleep and be wiped out of existence. Rather than tell these children, by the way, Mommy's about to do something that's going to kill you. How's that? You want some cookies? Like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. All right, next up. But you're right. It did make for a pretty emotional ending. I especially like the way Vision said to her, what am I? I really like the way he did that. Anyway, KM Reviews writes, still throwing in Easter eggs. Ralph's last name is Boner, haha, like Boner in Growing Pains. Still sad he wasn't a Fox character, though. I mean, I get it, but isn't it better that he wasn't a Fox character? Isn't it better that they didn't go the cheap gimmick? And isn't it better that we know Kevin Feige is actually sticking to his plan? That he's not some knee-jerk reactionist, let's just fly by the seat of our pants, that there is a guy in charge of the MCU who said, I've got the next 5 years planned out and I am sticking to my plan, and that he's actually doing it. Like, isn't that better? I mean, yeah, if they had said at the end, my real name is Peter Maximoff, and in my universe, I fight with a group of heroes called the X-Men and blah, blah. Like, yeah, it would have got the hello, Milwaukee cheap pop, but ultimately, wouldn't that have been like a random thing that distracts from the story? I don't know. I think it's actually better that they went the way they did. Not only was it a brilliant misdirect, like the most brilliant misdirect in the history of misdirects, but I thought it was much better that they didn't do it. But again, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on that. It is what it is. All right, thanks for sending that in, KM. All right, Alan McIntosh writes, so Paul Bettany's person he was excited to work with was himself, or was it Catherine Hahn? I think he said in his Good Morning America thing, it was actually himself. I didn't buy it, but he said it. So that one was weird. I guess he just thought he was being funny, and then he realized it kind of snowballed. And at that point, he can't say anything to contradict himself. Otherwise, it might spoil something in the show. I don't know. It was a weird situation, Alan. It was a totally weird situation. All right, next up. Crash Woodson writes, it made sense why Wanda made it cloudy and dark when fighting Agatha. So Wanda could hide what she was doing with the rune symbols surrounding Agatha. You know what, Crash? I didn't even think about that, but that's actually a good observation. That's really good. Because I remember to think too, oh, why is it suddenly like stormy and cloudy? That makes sense. She was camouflaging what she was doing. That's a good observation. Next up, Rylan Holman writes, not too upset by this, but there was no Luke level cameo. Like I said, it's fine they didn't have it, but when they said we would get one and it came to watching this episode, we were all waiting for it. I don't think we were all waiting for it. I remember hearing from a lot of people saying they just assumed it wasn't happening. Now, I was still kind of thinking we would get a big actor cameo in the end. I wasn't convinced we were going to get a big character cameo. I thought we were going to get a big actor cameo. And it didn't come, whatever. But again, that whole Luke Skywalker thing, that was not something that Elizabeth Olsen ever said. That was something the interviewer asked, and she simply said, yes. But you got to go back and look again at how the interviewer asked the questions. Like, hey, we just saw another Disney Plus show, Mandalorian, and they had this big reveal in it with Luke Skywalker. Can we look forward to like a big reveal like that in WandaVision? And she said, yes. Now, whether she was talking about the Agatha Harkness reveal or whether she was talking about Evan Peters popping up or whatever, but she simply said yes. She didn't actually say, in our show, there is a Luke Skywalker level cameo. But we interpreted it as that. We did that. And it wasn't really her fault. And certainly wasn't Disney's fault. It's just something we got our hands on and we kind of ran with it, right? So I think that's really more kind of on us, Rylan. But I think a lot of us, including me, I was still looking for that big actor cameo at the end. And it didn't come. It was fine that it didn't, but you're right. All right, KM Reviews writes, 1 of 4. Okay, go with me here. Ralph was resident, meaning he was originally mind-controlled by Wanda in the Hex, and Agatha possessed him from there. That seems sound. So when her mind control goes away, he now reverts to Wanda's Hex mind control. Technically, his whole house/persona is still a manifestation. Hex characters had fake names, so Ralph probably isn't his real name. Everything we saw was still an illusion in his house. We don't see him again. I'm dying on the hill saying he could still be Quicksilver. No, he's not. From X-Men One Day when they decided to introduce the mutants, LOL. Okay, there's 2 problems with that, KM. Here, and there's 2 problems there with that. Number 1, you're assuming that Agatha didn't first break Wanda's spell. Because remember, we saw Agatha could easily break Wanda's spell on people. She did it to the whole town just like that, right? So you are assuming that before implementing her mind control, that she didn't first break Wanda's. You're assuming that she just layered her mind control on top of Wanda's mind control instead of first breaking Wanda's mind control and then implementing her own. So you're making that assumption that there's no reason to believe that's true. I mean, it's just as easy to assume that she first broke Wanda's mind control and then put her own mind control in play. The second thing is this, is that once the Hex went down, I think we were caught up to the modern time, right? I think we were caught up to the modern time. So, yeah, anyway, at the end of the day, because what you're suggesting is that for what you're suggesting to be real would mean that Peter Maximoff, before the events of WandaVision, just somehow jumped into this dimension and this reality and this universe and was just living in Westview. And with nothing to do with WandaVision or anything else, he just came into town and decided, I'm just going to switch universes. So I think it was pretty definitive. I think it was pretty definitive that this Evan Peters was not Quicksilver from the Fox universe. But again, anything can happen in the MCU. All right, next up, we got Juno writes, excellent finale. My big question is, what was up with the rabbit? I think Wanda's search for her sons is what breaks the multiverse. Again, it's not a search for, she's not searching for her sons. She's searching for a way to manifest them create them again, to bring them back into reality. I don't think she's searching for them. They're not lost. She just wants to recreate them. And you're right. I think that could lead to a problem with the fabric of reality, and that brings in Doctor Strange. Just a theory, totally not found on anything else. As far as the rabbit was just a rabbit. You know? The rabbit was just a rabbit. It was, now, John, rabbits don't eat birds. True, it was a special rabbit because it was a witch's familiar, but still, at the end of the day, the rabbit was just a rabbit. What happens to Agatha's rabbit? Does she get to keep the rabbit? Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll find out. All right, Rylan Holman writes, Curious to see what happens with White Vision moving forward. Me too. He's got the memories, just not the emotional attachments. Almost thought they'd combine. You know, you're not alone. A lot of people started writing in. It wasn't a bad theory. Started writing in the theory that when WandaVision ends, she was going to take her fake vision and fuse it into this body and make one real vision. And a lot of people thought that. I never really bought into that. I just thought Vision wouldn't get out of it, but it was a good theory. It was a good theory. So you're not the only one to have thought that as well. All right, and it is going to be curious to see. Again, I think we'll see him next in Doctor Strange, but it could be even longer than that. We may not see him again for years. He may be up there sitting on the moon like Dr. Manhattan. He might just be sitting up there and kind of pondering things for a couple of years, but we'll see. All right, next up. Brandon Carter writes, I want more, John. Please tell me there is more. Well, there is that little making of WandaVision thing coming. I think it's next week. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. But then we get way more. We've got Falcon and Winter Soldier starting in just a couple weeks, Brandon. All right, Cam K writes, prediction. Wanda opens the multiverse in search of boys. Side effects show up in Spider-Man 3. Doctor Strange helps clean up the mess, then leaves and searches for the cause. Maybe. That's actually not a bad thing. I mean, that connects the dots. Again, I don't think she's searching for her kids so much as she's searching for a way to bring them into existence. But, I mean, that might just be semantics. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Either way. But in her quest to do that, again, it's starting to feel very similar to the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse plot, where Kingpin lost his son and wife, and he decides he's going to rip open other universes to try to find them, even if that means that could collapse all of reality. But he was willing to do that to try to get them back. Maybe that's something that's happening with Wanda right now. We'll find out. All right, Jacob Werman writes, everyone, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon. Kevin Feige, Darkhold my beer. Yep, pretty much. Now, you know me, I'm not losing any sleep over that. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a piece of garbage show. That's just me. I love Clark Gregg. I love the Agent Coulson character. Love them. But the show is not worthy of the greatness of Clark Gregg, in my opinion. But that's just me, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But, man, I didn't know that Kevin Feige would ever just come out and straight up say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't real. And by making that the Darkhold, that's basically what he did. And that was an interesting move. Interesting move by him. All right, next up. D Games writes, when the hex closed, for a second I thought it was just a dream because Wanda was still in that plot of land. Thankfully, it didn't happen. I would have lost. Oh, dude, don't even. I can't even imagine how pissed I personally would have been or how pissed you guys would have been if they just like blah, blah, and Wanda wakes up on that plot of land where their house is going to be. And she goes, oh, I just had a dream. Like when I was in all that pain, I screamed out, I actually passed out and I had a dream that I created this whole town and I had Vision back. Oh my God, I would have lost it. I would have fucking lost it. I would have been so mad that they had just wasted 9 weeks of our time on a effing, it was all a dream gimmick. Oh my, I'm getting angry just thinking about the possibility. I'm getting mad at Kevin Feige. This is how irrational this is. Right now, I am finding myself getting angry at Kevin Feige for something he didn't actually do, but could have done. And oh, holy crap. I think all of us would have completely lost it. Anyway, next up, Kevin Adams writes, I knew Wanda was up to something with her misses, but didn't see the giant runes coming. Yeah. Love when the hero learns the baddie's trick. Also love all the troll moves that generated hype and theories. I'll tell you what, and now somebody else wrote in earlier, Kevin, that they kind of saw it coming because they mentioned the runes. I didn't see it coming. Now, normally I'm pretty good at noticing this stuff and I see it come, but I didn't this time. Like with that battle going on up there, I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, Wanda's going to win. We all know that, but how was she going to win? I wasn't sure. And it wasn't until Agatha did the whole, and nothing came out. I'm like, oh, I see but while she was doing it, they caught me. I didn't see it coming, Kevin. I didn't see it coming. All right, next up. Murray Reich writes, so what ended up happening to White Vision and Ralph wasn't shown again? Well, with Ralph, what would have been the point of showing him again? There's no point. We resolved what he was, who he was, and who he wasn't. There was literally no point in showing him again. He's just a resident of the town. And once Monica pulled that enchanted necklace off him, he was just back to normal. There literally was no point in showing him again. As far as Vision, again, like I said, my theory is just off somewhere collecting his thoughts now, trying to figure out who he is. Who is this new Vision? Who am I? Because I now have access to these other memories, but I don't have the soul, if you will. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy that had these memories. So who am I? What am I? He's probably off somewhere trying to figure that stuff out, I'm guessing. All right. David Morgan Jr. writes, Paul Bettany probably referred to himself, but the only possible Luke moment was Evan Peters. So if Elizabeth Olsen doesn't realize the significance of Luke, again, I don't know how Elizabeth Olsen was supposed to answer the question. Like when an interviewer is asking her, are we going to get some big reveals? She can only say yes or no, and she doesn't want to elaborate because she doesn't want to give anything away. So I think we need to cut Elizabeth Olsen some slack here. I really do. I mean, it's unfortunate that it created a scenario where a lot of us got very riled up about it and really excited about it. But honestly, I think when you really look at the situation, the interviewer asked a question. She answered it probably the best she could under the circumstances, just said yes. And then, and hindsight's 2020. You know, it's easy for us to look back at somebody else's difficult situation and guess how they should have handled it. But I just think it's an unfortunate situation that it was done in such a way that we all got hyped up about it. But that's as much our fault as it is theirs. So I'm willing to let it go. But I totally see where you're coming from, David. I totally see where you're coming from. All right, next up. Suthius writes, starting to see theories on who this Cliff is that Jimmy called. It could just be a guy named Cliff. Stop trying to connect everything. Listen, this is what we as comic book genre fans do.
Oh my God, did you see that the guy who showed up in the parking lot was driving a red car? Iron Man was red. Therefore, this means Iron Man is coming.
I mean, we do that, right? I do it too. You do it. We all do it. Like little things get mentioned and instantly this means something. And then we wonder why when it ends up not meaning something, we get mad at the show for not doing anything. Well, they teased that Cliff was somebody. No, they didn't. He just said the name Cliff. And we all got kind of psyched up. But I mean, it is what we do. Right? We do this. And listen, it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun. And guess what? Every once in a while, rarely, but once in a while, these crazy little theories actually end up being something. And so it's fun. Here's the thing. I never want to make it sound like we as fans shouldn't be engaging in huge speculation and huge theories and all these types of things. We should. It's fun. It's engaging. It invests us more into the properties. I think it's great. The catch is we just can't get so invested in these theories that our theories coming true become prerequisites to us enjoying the properties. That's where we got to make sure we don't cross the line. But yeah. Okay. I just seeing it in the live chat. A bunch of you guys are saying cliffhanger. Very cute. Very cute. Cliffhanger. Cliff is the one above all. Imagine if they ever brought the one above all into the MCU. They never would. But cliffhanger. I get it. Well said, guys. Well said. All right. Next up. Murray Reich writes, I love the Scarlet Witch costume. She looked so damn good. Also, what was Hayward's ultimate goal? Being mustache twirling bad guy? No, I mean, I think his ultimate goal was, honestly, at the end of the day, this is why I keep telling people he was not evil. He was not the villain. His ultimate goal at the end of the day was to save that town and to get his hands on a weapon that he had no business having his hands on, but getting his hands on a weapon that he feels will allow him to do that job even better moving forward, which is really no different than Fury, the Nick Fury building that fleet of helicarriers that Captain America had a real moral problem with. Captain America had a major moral and ethical problem with what it was that Fury was doing, but Fury just saw it as his way of making sure he could do his job. But we don't call Fury a villain. He's a dick sometimes. He does some unscrupulous things. I think that's the thing. In the absence of any other ulterior motive from Hayward, like Hayward wasn't trying to take over the world. Hayward wasn't trying to bring about the ascension of Mephisto. He had no villainous, evil motives. He was just a total dick. He was an asshole. He did things the wrong way. He broke laws to do what it was he thought he needed to do, and he got held accountable at the end. So anyway, that's just kind of it. All right, next up. Connie Sang writes, not a perfect finale, but had a lot of great moments with a tearjerker, bittersweet ending to this specific story of Wanda and Vision. Having seen 23 MCU films, I know this show will only get better over time. And I agree, that last scene, while my favorite moment in the episode was definitely the two Visions having their philosophical standoff, that part at the end, as the end is coming for Vision, right? The hex continues to close. The end is coming. He's about to be wiped out of existence. And him and Wanda sharing that moment. And especially when he says to her, "What am I?" And they kiss, and then it's all gone. The kids are gone. Vision's gone. That was a really good moment. It was not quite as good as the two Visions standing off, but that was a really good moment, Connie. I like that one a lot. And you're right. I think as we go back and revisit this WandaVision again in the future, I mean, even next week, if I rewatch WandaVision again, and I probably will this week, I'll probably rewatch the whole thing again. I'll probably even find it even better. Because it was so character-centric and so beautifully done. So I'm with you on that, Connie. I am absolutely with you on that. Okay, next up. Marie Seifring writes, Ralph Boner, not the Quicksilver we were hoping for. I wasn't hoping for it. I knew it was not Quicksilver, and I am perfectly happy that it wasn't. I think it would have been a cheap gimmick. To be honest with you, I thought it would have been a cheap gimmick if they made him Quicksilver. But that's just me. I know other people had some other hopes, and I'm not trying to yuck on y'all's yum. I'm just saying, not only did I know it wasn't Quicksilver, I am glad it wasn't Quicksilver. But that's just me, Marie. That's just me. All right, James Dobson writes, those obsessed with a Luke-level cameo, you spoiled it for yourself. Marvel gave us with something uniquely special, and we should be damn grateful. Oh, I agree. And that's why I think it's important that, cool, have these theories, have these expectations, but then you got to leave them at the door when you go into your living room to watch the show. Leave all the theories, leave all the expectations, leave all of those at the door. Don't bring them into watching the show with you. Leave them at the door. And then you can enjoy the show for what it is. Or at least if you dislike it, you dislike it for what it is. You don't end up disliking it because of what the expectations and the baggage you brought in with you. And that's why I go into a movie and a show with as much baggage as anybody. But I learned a lot of years ago, as a fan, you got to take all those expectations. You got to take all those theories. You got to take all those ideas, and you have to leave them at the door. Go in, be as a blank sheet of white paper, and just watch the movie or the show and enjoy it or not, judge it based on its own merits. And I think for those of us who were able to do that with WandaVision, I think a lot of us enjoyed it. And some people did that and didn't enjoy it, and that's fair too. But it's WandaVision really does highlight that very, very important thing for us as fans. And we'll see if we're able to evolve from there, James. We'll see if we're able to evolve from there. All right, Marie Seifring writes, I thoroughly enjoyed the whole series. It was interesting. You could hear Billy and Tommy's voice when Wanda was looking through the Darkhold. Thanks. Yeah, again, I need to go back and listen to it again. But I am almost certain, not completely certain, just almost certain. I'll have to go back and watch again. But I believe those "Mom, help," I think that's the exact same piece of audio that Wanda heard the boys yelling earlier in the episode, or even maybe back in episode 8. And so I think that's just her thinking of them and knowing she wants to try to find a way to recreate them. But maybe if I go back and re-listen to the audio, maybe it's not the exact same audio clip, but I think it was. I mean, we'll find out though. All right, next up. Curtis Lopez writes, really enjoyed this finale. Still curious how White Vision is going to play out since he has the memories of the OG Vision, Marvel Fake Death Universe. Again, I think they're going to make it, again, going back to what Bruce was saying before, there's a lot of different pieces that make Vision who he is. Only Shuri was able to figure out how to capture that, and she wasn't able to do it in time. So this is really a new person. This is a completely new person. This isn't like the Loki. It's still Loki. They just plucked him out from a different point in time. This is an entirely new person who happens to have access to the memories of the person who previously inhabited this body. And it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that moving forward. I'm going to be very curious, Curtis. I'm very curious to see how they deal with this. Benjamin GL writes, super underwhelming finale. It's not that the answers were bad. It's just that it just wasn't the same quality of answers we had been getting so far. That's a matter of perspective, Benjamin. I did not find it to be an underwhelming episode. I mean, best episode of the series? No. But I personally did not find it underwhelming at all. I thought it was a beautiful conclusion to the story. But, you found yourself underwhelmed by it, and that's totally fair. We all approach these things, and we have our different experiences with them, but I thought it was very well done. It didn't have the ending I was looking for, but I still thought it was a very, very well executed, well done, and they stayed on course. They didn't deviate from their course. Their entire course of this show was always it's about Wanda. It's about Wanda. It's about Wanda. It's about Wanda. And they never once allowed the show to be about something else. And that's why I thought they stuck the landing. But again, just because I feel that way doesn't mean you need to agree. And you felt a little differently about it. And I respect that. All right, next up. Wanda's Pitch writes, 1 of 6. Hey, John, been following you for a while and I love your show. Thank you so much. I found you thanks to one of your haters. So thanks to them, I guess. I have to say that I loved the WandaVision finale. I can understand why the director of the show said that a lot of people would be disappointed. But I think that some people theorize too much for a show of two people who didn't have a lot of background in the previous movies. And that is the first one that we see from a new phase of the MCU. I loved that they didn't make Wanda the villain because she kind of was the villain. Anyway, I love that they didn't make Wanda the villain because honestly, I'm tired of Hollywood making the people with mental illnesses the bad ones and the ones, and the only thing that Wanda needs right now is therapy. I can't wait for the future of Wanda on the MCU. I loved her new costume, and from the post-credit scene, it seems like they are going to bring the kids back, and that makes me really excited. My only complaint with the episode is the lack of Darcy in it. And again, I was looking for a little more Darcy too. I think Vision is kind of back, and finally, please give all the awards to Elizabeth Olsen. Again, let's not get into awards talk because awards isn't about you doing great. It's about you doing better than anybody else did that year, and we have nothing. We don't know what we're comparing that to yet. You see, at the end of the day, Wanda, we go back to episode 4 when Monica comes out of the hex and says, it's all Wanda. It was all Wanda. Wanda did it all. And at the heart of it, amidst her grief and her pain, was a reality of her being selfish. She wanted to have what she wanted, despite what the cost might be to other people. Now, you can make the argument that at first, when she screams and the hex appears, that maybe that wasn't her intention completely at first. But as we've already covered, as the show progressed, she was aware. She became aware that she was forcing other people to live in this charade of hers. But she didn't care, as long as she got what she wanted. And of course, that all came from a place of grief and loss and pain and all the things that made WandaVision so beautiful. It came from a place of all of those things. Absolutely. Now, the kids part is interesting because the kids part, again, right now I'm just theorizing and I'm not invested in this at all. As soon as we see anything else, I could totally change my mind. But it feels, I'm theorizing that her quest to get her kids back will come at a massive price tag for the universe. And that's going to be a problem that Doctor Strange later will have to deal with as the protector of our realm and our reality. And I think, again, at the core of it will be Wanda's selfishness. That there is inherent... I was warned by Agatha that I'm dangerous. I was warned by Agatha the Darkhold predicts that I'm going to destroy the world. But, and I know that ripping open multiple universes to try to get my kids back may be dangerous, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Now, I am pulling all of this completely out of my ass. I don't know that that's what they're doing. I'm just theorizing right now that's where they could be going. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, it will make for a compelling story. It'll make for a good narrative. And whichever way they decide to go with this, Wanda's, whatever way they decide to go with this, it's going to be interesting to see how they do culminate that. And again, I think I think it was Tim Platt who put it this way earlier. I'm not seeing Wanda as the villain of like Doctor Strange 2, but the antagonist. As maybe well-meaning, but I don't know. It's just going to be really interesting to see where they go with this. Anyway, dude, I'm glad you found us, and thank you for sending in your thoughts and for articulating them so well. All right, next up, Nick C. writes, with Marvel changing their order of shows because of the pandemic, do you think this affected / will affect the flow of the main MCU story? I don't think so, and what I think it also kind of points us towards is that the brilliance of Kevin Feige is that every movie, for the most part, there are some exceptions, but every movie for the most part is its own self-contained story. And that's the thing. You can't allow the MCU just to become the next episode of the overall MCU show. They've got to be good stories, self-contained in and of themselves to have value. And I think because they make their shows and their movies that way, it's not going to affect it too much. At least I don't think. Maybe it will. We'll find out. But for now, I think they're moving in a good direction. All right, guys, listen. We've hit the top of the hour, so I am again going to take a quick 3 or 4 minute break. I got to go refill my drink, rest my vocal cords for just a couple of quick minutes. So don't go anywhere, guys. Hang tight, and we will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much, guys, for waiting and being patient with me as I went and got my drink, and I had to feed my dogs, too. Almost forgot I had to feed my dogs. So I went ahead and did that. All right, we're going to keep going until 7 o'clock, so let's get through as many questions as we can here, shall we? And we're going to pick things up with, where do we leave off with here? That was Nick. Next up is Curtis Lopez writes, okay, John, trying to defend Hayward, attempting to murder 2 little kids. Again, the kids weren't real. They knew they weren't real. He saw the show. She brought them into existence. He knew they weren't real. Get over it. All right, next up. Wanda's... Oh, we already did that one. Dirk Walker writes, after the Kick-Ass reference, we all should have known not to take every Easter egg as a serious plot point. Maybe. I just thought the Kick-Ass thing was really fun. I just thought that was such a really fun little... Especially the way they totally isolate. Kick-Ass. I mean, that was just a great idea, I thought. All right, Nick C. writes, I get the vibes this isn't the last we have seen of Agatha, given Wanda saying, if I need you, I know where to find you. Yeah, I totally think she'll be back. I don't know when, but she could be back as early as Doctor Strange 2. It's like, okay, like she needs some interpretation of the Darkhold or something like that. Agatha has obviously been a witch for hundreds of years. Wanda has not, so I think we will see her again. We absolutely will. All right, next up. Fanimator writes, what a satisfying ending and a beautiful finale. Only kids hate the lack of a big cameo like Mephisto. How will this connect to Doctor Strange 2, though? I mean, I thought the post-credit scene made it pretty clear how it's going to connect into Doctor Strange 2. I believe she's going to pose a threat to reality. I mean, maybe even not badly intentioned, but I think she's probably going to pose a threat to reality. She is the Scarlet Witch, who is said in the Darkhold would lead to the destruction of the world. She's already in a hunt to try to get her kids, to recreate her kids. I think that's going to cause a problem. I think Doctor Strange needs to get involved, and that's how. Again, I don't know that. That's just me pulling that out of my ass right now. But that's what I'm thinking so far, Fanimator. All right, next up. We've got Sam Wright writes, just want to say well done and thanks for the pregame and spoiler shows and good luck this weekend. Hope you don't lose your voice talking about the finale. Yeah, no, I'll be good. I'm going to pace myself. We're just going to go 4 hours max. By the way, I'm also excited about tomorrow. There's a big UFC fight tomorrow. 3 titles on the line. Super stoked for the UFC tomorrow. Anyway, thank you for the kind words, Sam. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait for us to do this again with Falcon and Winter Soldier. All right, next up. We've got Curtis Lopez writes, can people stop with the whole Evan Peters as Fox's Quicksilver now? It's clear as day he's not now, but fanboys will still desperately try to convince themselves it's frustrating. Well, I mean, look, to be fair, we all get theories and ideas that we get really invested in, and some of us then just don't want to let go of it. And listen, let's not pretend like we aren't all guilty of that sometimes. We are all guilty of that sometimes, but yes, the finale of WandaVision made it abundantly clear that this was never Quicksilver. And it's not, and it never is. But I mean, I get it. Some people try to hold on things. I'm sure I still do too. Hell, I'm still telling you that Hayward was not a villain. He was just an asshole. But maybe after I think about it for a couple of months, maybe I'll change my mind. But right now, I still believe that's the case. But it is what it is, Curtis. We all hold on to things, man. We all hold on to things. Next up, Nick C. writes, Wanda looks very bad. I'm the eyes of the public. How do you think this will impact superhero society? Is it possible for Wanda to be redeemed? Well, look, the thing about Wanda is while it was Wanda that did it all, and she did some selfish things. She did some things that I believe she needs to be held accountable for. She did a lot of bad things. At the end of the day, Wanda was never evil, right? She was never a villain. She did bad things. She hurt people. She didn't mean to, but she made bad decisions and bad choices. But at the end of the day, Wanda was never evil. So I don't even know that she needs to be quote unquote redeemed. You know what I mean? Because I don't think she ever was straight up evil. Bad choices, bad decisions. She hurt people. It wasn't her intention, yada, yada, yada. I think she needs to be held accountable She does need to be held accountable for what happened. But I don't know that she needs to be redeemed per se. Can she like be an active member of the Avengers again? Probably not. That becomes a little bit problematic because the FBI and SWORD and everybody knows what it is she did. Now, whether that becomes public knowledge, that's a different thing. Whether they Men in Black mind wiped everybody in the town, whatever, but the FBI and SWORD and the government knows what she did. So I don't know. The question is, what will be her place again in the MCU? I still kind of think maybe she doesn't make it out of Doctor Strange 2, but I don't know that. That's just me guessing. All right. Next up, Curtis writes, also, Wanda is not a mutant. She's a witch, and Magneto is not her daddy. Oleg Maximoff is. Now go cry in the corner, fanboy theorist. Again, I told everybody there's not going to be mutants. Wanda's not a mutant. She's a witch. You know, it is what it is. But look, again, those theories, Curtis, weren't crazy theories. Because there is basis for some belief in those theories. I mean, the comics, to start, Wanda Maximoff is a mutant in the comics. Right? So that's a good basis for that. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't blame anybody for thinking that. Now, look, yes, it flew in the face of the fact that Kevin Feige said, look, I've got a 5-year plan. I'm not going to bring in anything else until after my 5-year plan is done. But still, it is not the craziest thing in the world to believe that we were going to get mutants. I mean, I said we weren't, but I also said that the 2 people in the commercials were Wanda's parents, and that was wrong. So it wasn't a crazy theory. But yes, you now, even if you did hold on to that theory, you now have to look at the show and the MCU and accept that, nope, that's not what it was. Wanda is a witch. She's not a mutant. There are no mutants. She's not Magneto's daughter in this universe and in this reality. And we just got to move on from that. Just like I kind of thought this show would end with Wanda being completely broken. They didn't. They didn't end it that way. Cool. Now we just move on from that. And that's what we need to do. All right, next up. Jake Smith writes, I mean, the guy was just doing his job. Justice for Hayward. That's right. Well, no, he did break rules. He violated the Sokovia Accords. And he got arrested for it. So there you go. All right, next up. Hamza writes, just sending love. WandaVision, not the same without your show. Oh, thank you so much. But I mean, it is true, right? When we are able to, I'll speak for myself. I find doing these shows and getting together with the community for the pre-games, for the spoiler discussions, it just makes me all the more invested in the show and makes the show more fun for me. It's already fun, but it's just doing these make it even more fun for me to be a fan of those things. So I'm glad you kind of feel the same way, Hamza. Thank you so much for that. All right. Frank Miller writes, 1 of 2. I like the show a lot, but I wish Marvel had just let the show speak for itself to build hype. Instead, they lied about the major cameo. Again, no, they didn't. They didn't. That's the thing. They didn't. Anyway, they cast Evan Peters to troll us and to generate hype for the show, so Marvel shares some blame for how some fans feel. Nope. No, they don't. Again, they never made any big hype out of a cameo. Here's the problem, Frank. People are acting as if Marvel put out a press release. Stop the presses, everybody. We as Marvel have an announcement. Lo and behold, yea, verily, upon you, the masses, we shall have in our WandaVision show a cameo of such epic proportions that it will rival, yea, I say unto you, even the Luke Skywalker cameo in Mandalorian, and there shall be joy amongst the people. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. It was an interviewer put Elizabeth Olsen on the spot and asked her a question, and she gave a one-word answer. Yes. Thinking in her head, maybe the Agatha Harkness reveal was like that, or maybe Evan Peters being in it was like that, whatever. But again, we are all acting like Marvel put out commercial after commercial. Are you ready, general public, for our Luke Skywalker level mind-blowing cameo that is coming this Friday? Are you ready? But that's not what they did. You hyped it up like that. We hyped it up like that. It wasn't them. And as far as the Evan Peters things go, again, I stand by this. The fan communities have been calling for studios to do like gimmick, cool little castings like this for years. For years, they've been doing it. And so Kevin Feige, and by the way, they didn't do it to hype up their show because they didn't even tell anybody about it. I mean, some people rumored about it and some people leaked that it was there and all that kind of stuff, but they didn't. They left it as a surprise and a shock thing for the show, but it was a brilliantly placed misdirect. It was a brilliantly placed misdirect. It was fantastic that they did. But if you were paying attention, it was pretty clear he wasn't actually going to be Quicksilver. Listen, I'm a bit slow sometimes, right? I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And even I was able to know, okay, well, it's clearly not actually Quicksilver. It's brilliant that it's Evan Peters, but it's if I could figure out immediately that it wasn't actually Quicksilver, then anybody could figure it out. Because Sherlock Holmes, I am not, all right? But yeah, at the end of the day, what did Marvel actually do? It's really more about what we did. It's more about what we did. At least that's the way I kind of see it, Frank, at any rate. Anyway, next up, Hamza writes, thanks for the extra shows. It must be tiring. Oh, it is tiring. Yes, it is tiring, but it's totally worth it. I love it. I mean, it's great. And, sex is tiring, but it's totally worth it because it's a fun thing to do. So yes, I really do enjoy doing these things, Hamza. All right. James Hoffman writes, I like the talk between the two visions, my favorite part of the show. In the library about the Theseus ship, that scene had some deep philosophical concepts. It was great. And again, not like something you'd think coming out of a, general comic book piece of material. It was so wonderfully done. It was so well executed. I absolutely loved it, James. It was my favorite part of the episode. The hero writes, who's that devil with the silver smile? It was Ralph Boner all along. The series finale was just a dump truck of MCU setups, and I'm all for it. The Vision stole the episode in 3 minutes. A+ writing. I thought it was A+ writing. They did just the right amount, a little misdirects here and there, but they stayed true. This was the part, Hero. They stayed true to the story they endeavored on. This was a story from start to finish about a woman dealing with her grief and dealing with her pain and the consequences of what pain can do to us and lead us to do sometimes. And they never deviated from that. And that's one of the things that I really liked about it. And that's why I agree with you, Hero. It was absolute A+ writing. I completely agree with you. Absolutely A+ writing. All right. Next up, James Hoffman writes, I think White Vision could return since he had Vision's memories. MCU fake death strikes again. I'll give them a little bit of a pass for this one because that literally is not Vision. Like, it's like when Wanda was over Vision's body and she's like, I can't feel you. The Vision she knew is literally gone. This isn't just the same Vision plucked from a different point in time. This isn't a clone duplicate of Vision. It literally is the Vision she knew is gone. And this entity that is now inhabiting this body that has access to the memories of Vision, it ain't Vision. It's literally a different character. Again, I don't know how to explain it other than say, I refer you back to the way they set it all up in the comics. They do a much better job of it there, but I'll give them a pass because you know me, I'm really critical of Marvel and their fake death universe. But I will give them a pass on this one because it really did feel like a different thing. It feels like a different thing. And so I'll give them a pass on this one. All right, next up. Casey McNatt writes, and tips on like $25. Thank you, Casey. John, I just want to, let me try this again. John, I just want to say, I want to thank you for giving us these shows where we can all speculate and debate just to find out some of our theories are sometimes right or wrong. Anyway, thank you for all that you do. Well, thank you so much, Casey. I really do appreciate that a lot. It is a lot of fun. It's a really great time doing these things. And it just makes me a bigger fan of the shows themselves. It gets me more invested in the shows for what they are. And it is completely fun when we find out when we find out that certain theories are wrong. It's like, oh, really? Like when I found out that the parents weren't actually, that the people in the commercials weren't actually her parents. I was so sure about that one, guys. I was so sure. I guess now I'm like, well, then who were they? And why did they have the same two people in all the commercials? And what was the point of the commercial? Who were watching the commercial? Anyway, all of that. But even finding out when your theory is wrong, it's like, but it's fun. It's fun. And then when you find out that a certain theory is right, that is also fun. But I mean, it is such a good time. And that's part of the reason why I love doing these videos. Separate from the regular John Campea show. It's just a lot of fun to do. So I'm glad you're along for the ride with us as well, Casey. I really appreciate that. All right. Next up, James Hoffman writes, finale was really an origin story for Scarlet Witch. Wanda in her full Scarlet Witch outfit looked amazing, and she has leveled up in her powers. It's not far off. I think the finale did two things. It was kind of the metamorphosis of Wanda Maximoff into the Scarlet Witch. That was definitely one of the big things of the finale. But it was also about the conclusion of that journey of grief that Wanda has gone through to the point of acceptance and then being willing to let go. Sort of let go of Vision and the Hex and her kids. When really, she was just going to turn around and try to use this new power to try to get her kids back. But that's a story for another day. But yeah, I think that's definitely a fair assessment, James, that one of the big things about the finale was the ultimate metamorphosis of Scarlet Witch, or of Wanda Maximoff becoming the Scarlet Witch. So that was definitely one of the main keys there. All right, next up. Adrian Rosales writes, Agent Jimmy Woo mentions his friend at Quantico. Here we go, guys. They're bringing in X-Men, Fantastic Four. LOL, just kidding. Cliff, everybody. The cliffhanger is coming. Cliff and the cliffhanger are coming. So the funny thing is, Adrian, you know there are already people out there building entire theories around that phone call. You know it's happening. You totally do. Anyway, Adrian also writes, WandaVision ended well. It started with Wanda and ended with the Scarlet Witch. Love the outfit. Completely agree. It was the completion of the journey, right? It was a complete journey. It was one of self-discovery. It was one of dealing with loss. It was one of identity. But most importantly, it was one of character. And that's the way they really executed. I thought they did a great job. Adrian also writes, did the Scarlet Witch stay with the Darkhold? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we saw in case you didn't see the post-credit scenes, Adrian, in the second post-credit scene, we see her with the Darkhold. Totally diving in. Not to help mankind, but apparently just trying to find a way to get her kids back, which I think is going to lead to problems of ripping open the multiverse of madness. We'll see. We'll find out. I might be way wrong about that, but maybe. All right, Curtis Lopez writes, I think it's just kind of hilarious that Ralph Bohner is probably, as we see, he has a headshot, a struggling actor who never got off the ground because of his unfortunate last name, LOL. Although, I got to say, If you really want to be an actor, living in some small town in Pennsylvania is probably not what, like, if you want to be an actor, you got to move to New York or LA. That's what you got to do. But maybe that is kind of funny. And that would be kind of similar, Curtis, because a bunch of people are drawing similarities. I think a little unfairly, but still, there are people drawing similarities to the Evan Peters thing with the Ben Kingsley thing in Iron Man 3. And of course, as it turns out, Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3 ended up being what? An actor. The character was an actor. And wouldn't that be funny if that was also kind of a similarity between those two things there? Anyway, just a thought. Well pointed out, Curtis. All right, next up, James Hoffman writes, they arrest Hayward, so he's kind of villain. Wanda did free people when she realized what was happening, so they kind of redeem Wanda a little bit. Again, I'm done discussing the Hayward thing. I've made my point very clear. I have correctly made my point very clear. And ask me again in 2 months. I may have a totally different point of view. But with Wanda, again, she loses the excuse. She knew she was controlling people's lives. Maybe not right at first, but she definitely was aware she was controlling people's lives. She was doing it to Vision, right? Remember, even in the earliest episodes, we see Vision started figuring some things out and asking questions he shouldn't be asking. Let's rewind. She found the beekeeper. We still don't know what she did to the beekeeper. No. So she is totally cognizant and aware that she does control this world. She goes marching out of the hex, right? And tells Hayward and the Sword, "You leave me alone." It's like, lady, you're kidnapped 3,000 people. You've taken away their free will and you're making them live in this fantasy so you can live in this little fairy tale. Like, I understand it. Maybe at first, maybe at the very beginning, she didn't understand what she was doing. But the show makes it pretty clear throughout that she became aware of what she was doing. Maybe she didn't totally understand that these people she had kidnapped, that they were in big mental distress and pain, but she knew she kidnapped them. And she knew she was using them as her puppets. And she knew she was taking their lives away from them so she could live in her little fantasy bubble. She knew that. But again, I don't ever think she was evil. Like, you can be a good character and do evil things. And while maybe some of the things she was doing can be interpreted as evil, I don't think it was coming from a motivation of evil. So therefore, I don't even know if she really needs redemption per se. I don't even think she needs it. But she does need to be held accountable for the things that she's done. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of work this whole thing out. It'll be interesting. Let's see. Bell Cross writes, "Hey, John, I was wondering if you saw the second end credits at 45:35. If we're talking about the Darkhold one, absolutely. We were just talking about that. Excellent scene, by the way. The Wakandan Forever writes, Lady in Red, WandaVision was great. Got action scene, questions answered, and heartfelt ending. What more do you need? Series is great, start to finish. I agree. Now, look, it's not perfect. I have a few question marks. Like, you just wiped your own kids out of existence? I mean, she had to, but they didn't make much of a deal out of it. The whole thing about White Vision had her, could have killed her easily just like that, but they did it for... I mean, there are a few things. That I still have questions about. I'm not going to say WandaVision was perfect from start to finish, but it was great. It was great. And I thought they stuck the landing, not the best landing ever, but they stuck the landing for me. They brought this beautiful story to conclusion, and then they opened it up a little bit with their end credits, and we'll see where they go, Wakandan. All right, next up. Armando Reyes writes, "What a ride. Add in sitcoms, Little Twilight Zone, and The Truman Show. Together you get a ride like no other. Multiverse of Madness and Captain Marvel 2. Just had a quick disconnect. Hold up. Reconnecting. I'm just putting reconnecting in the thing. And we're already back. Sorry. I just got a thing from, I just got a notification in the software that we had a momentary disconnect, but we are back. Momentary disconnect, but we are back. All right. So... what were we talking about? Oh yeah, so I won't be surprised, especially now with Monica being a common point of reference. I'm not sitting here predicting we're going to get a Captain Marvel versus Scarlet Witch thing. I'm just saying, because of the similarities of the nature of both of their sets of powers, because of the common link that they have with Monica now has a direct link to both of the characters. And basically because Kevin Feige has kind of affirmed that Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch are probably the two most powerful characters in the MCU. I mean, Feige has said Captain Marvel is the most powerful character in the MCU, but they've just souped up Scarlet Witch. So I won't be surprised if at some point we see the two meet. Whether it's in Captain Marvel 2, whether it's in Doctor Strange, I don't know. Maybe Captain Marvel shows up in Doctor Strange as well. Maybe it's in something else. I don't know. I just won't be surprised if we don't see them kind of hook up at some point there, Armando. All right. Next up, we've got Timothy Platt, who writes, "In my own headcanon, Wanda remembered her fight with Hawkeye against Iron Man in Civil War and used it against Agatha. Made you look. Hey, listen, that's not your own headcanon. That is canon. That is something that happened with that character before. Maybe that's exactly. I'll be honest with you, Timothy, I didn't even think about that. I think you could absolutely be right about that and absolutely be onto something about that. All right, next up, Anthony M.R. writes, I think WandaVision taught us a valuable lesson. Stop coming up with wild theories. Nah, who am I kidding? See you in a few weeks for the wild theories for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And again, I know this has kind of been the theme for today, but I think it's important to point out, I do not think the lesson here is to not come up with wild theories. Wild theories are great, even if they're wrong most of the time. Wild theories are fun, engaging in speculation and guessing and theorizing. This is part of the fun, and it gets us invested. The key is not for us to not theorize. The key, I believe, is for us to not get so invested in our theories that our theories coming true become prerequisites for us liking the movie or the show. That's the difference. It's great to theorize and come up with theories and ideas and speculation. We just got to be willing to separate ourselves from them. Like I was saying earlier, leave them at the door. Carry them with you all week, but when it comes time to sit down and watch the movie or watch the next episode, take all those theories and expectations and speculation and leave them at the door. You got to separate yourselves from them. That's the key. But I never want us to stop theorizing and speculating and engaging and getting into the nitty-gritty with what the show could be or what the movie could be. That's part of the fun, and I never want that to go away. We just got to learn how to deal with it better. We got to learn how to separate ourselves from it. I think personally, that's kind of the key for it. At least to me it is. All right. Where are we at here? Was that Anthony? Yes. Wakanda Forever writes, I am more excited for the MCU now. After Endgame, I was nervous. MCU is still awesome. What is your biggest question leading into the future of the MCU now? I think for me, the biggest question, even coming out of WandaVision, the biggest question for me is that with the Avengers in place in the previous phases, we always basically knew the structure of the MCU. Like even when there were solo single shot movies going on, we understood with the Avengers at the core, there was a lot going on. Right now, we don't have that central structure. Who are the Avengers right now? Thor is off-world. Hulk, maybe, depending on the status of his arm and everything, Hulk might be a part of it. Don't know what's going on with Ant-Man. Hawkeye is apparently retired, even though we're about to get a Hawkeye series. Black Widow is dead. Cap is out of the picture, although we know he's coming back. But for now, Cap is out of the picture. Iron Man's dead. So I guess really, when you boil it down, my biggest question for the MCU, even coming out of Wanda, because now apparently Wanda can't be a member of the Avengers, not being wanted, is what is the Avengers now? When we say Avengers, for 10 years, we've always known what that meant. That meant Iron Man, Cap, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow with Nick Fury there somewhere. That was the Avengers. It evolved a little bit as we've gone along, but really now, what are the Avengers? When we say Avengers, what does that mean? And I think that's the question that I have in my head right now. That's the question. That's the biggest question standing out for me. Okay, guys, just have a couple of minutes left. Before we're going to have to wrap up today. Don't worry, guys. Every single question that got sent in, every comment that got sent in will be read and will be addressed in a follow-up video for any that we don't get to today. So we will get to every single one that you guys sent in. But I wanted to go right to 7 o'clock, but I'm not going to lie to you. My throat is running out of steam. So I'm going to try to get through just a couple more questions here. All right. Extreme Nation writes, hey, John and Ann. Ann's not here right now. Personally, I love this ending. What happened to White Vision? Also, the outfit was so X-Men. I loved it. You think she will be a villain in Doctor Strange too? Again, I love the way one of our previous viewers wrote. An antagonist, not necessarily a villain. Again, because villain implies they are an evil character with evil motives. And I don't think that will be Wanda. I think we may get a Wanda who's still trying to do something selfish, like risk the universe for the sake of her getting her kids back. And again, this theory may change as well. But for now, I do see her being an antagonist. Part of the problem. She's going to be part of, if not the problem, that Doctor Strange is going to have to solve. Maybe not a villain, but the problem. So that's how I kind of see it extreme. All right, next up. Andrea Valentova writes. Andrea Valentova writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John. Ultimately, I'm glad Wanda was able to sort of deal with her grief. But even though I was not expecting some grand reveals or multiverse break-in, the execution of what we got was lacking. The last post-credit scene saved it a little bit. I gotta disagree. I mean, I respect your point of view on that. All these things hit us differently, and your point of view is no less or no more valid than mine. So I respect that. But for me, it was the logical, inevitable conclusion of the narrative. And the battle with the visions was fabulous. The philosophical discourse between them was incredible. I liked the fight between Agnes and Wanda. And by the way, you know, one of the things that I always say is that action in movies and TV shows, action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. Like, you go to some of the Michael Bay Transformers films, they have some huge set piece actions, but they're all garbage. Other than the first Transform. I like the first one, but they're all garbage because most of the time their action has no narrative purpose. But you look at the action sequences in WandaVision's finale, there was massively played out in the Vision versus Vision. But even in the Agnes versus or Agatha versus Wanda fight, there was story happening there. Through it, like, Wanda was learning more and more about her true self and her identity throughout the fight. The fight itself served narrative purpose. And I thought was great. And then ultimately coming to that place where Wanda finishes her journey through the grieving process and ends at acceptance. So I personally thought it was really quite good. Again, not the one I was looking for, but I actually thought it was quite good. But, you know, it didn't do that for everybody. Hey, that's true of every movie and TV show. It'll work for some, it won't work for others. Didn't work quite as well for you, and I respect that, but I gotta tell you, for me, it really did. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, man. I appreciate that. Next up, Andrea also writes in, also, Mr. Bettany is really the next level troll, but I actually liked how the fight of the two visions ended just by having a nice philosophical debate. I'll tell you what, man. First of all, their fight going on was great, but the moment that White Vision said, I believe his wording was, I request? Yeah, I think he said, I request elaboration. As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh man, this is going to a whole new level. This is so cool. Like, you got these two of the most powerful beings on the face of the earth right now. Or Richard corrects me. Thank you. That's what it was. I require elaboration. I love it when characters have good vocabularies. Guys, I'm just somebody who really appreciates a good vocabulary. And so as soon as he said that, I'm like, all right, we're about to get to next level shit right here. And then they start having this like intellectual exchange that I just thought was so good and so loud. Then again, my favorite part of the episode. All right. Tice 57, you know what, guys? I'm gonna go a little bit shorter than I thought I was gonna go. We're about 3 hours and 45 minutes now, but my voice is starting to get a bit strained. I'm gonna pump the brakes. We'll get to the rest of them in the live or in the follow-up video to this weekend. But for now, our final question of the day comes for us from Tice 57, who writes, "Hey John, what do you think about the way they left White Vision and Wanda heard the kids after the second post-credits scene? So are they alive?" Well, again. I do like the way they ended the White Vision thing, because that makes sense. This newly created being has a lot to work out and figure out. And so he did what I think a lot of us would do. Bolt. I need to just get somewhere and I need to figure this out. Because right now, I don't know who I am. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. He had to get out. He had to split, all that kind of stuff. And again, I have to go back and double check this again, but I don't think she was hearing the new voice. Like, I don't think her kids are in some dimension going, "Mom, help us, we're trapped." I don't think that's what's happening. I thought, and again, maybe when I go back and watch it again, I might have a different opinion, but It sounded to me like the exact same audio clip that we heard the kids from before. So to me, that was just Wanda thinking about her kids, that she's trying to find a way to go and get her kids back. I could be wrong. But we will see. We will see if that's true or not. And we will know. All right, guys. That will do it for now for this installment and our final installment, I guess, of our WandaVision open spoiler discussion for episode 9. Of course, there are many more questions to come. We will get those addressed in a companion video this weekend. I'll see if Robert Meyer Burnett, just so you guys can get a different point of view than the ones I've been giving on all the answers. We'll see if he wants to do that one. You guys seem to appreciate it when I do that. So I'll hit up Rob and see if not, I'll do it myself in the, over this weekend. So we will get to your questions this weekend. Guys, thank you so much for being here. And by the way, guys, not just for today, but for you guys have really increased my own enjoyment of WandaVision a lot. You guys make being a fan so much more fun for me. It's just been wild. It's been great. And this whole thing of like the pregame shows and then the spoiler discussions and having our engagements on that when we agree, when we disagree, all that, it's done so much. And I'm just speaking from a personal point of view. It's just done so much to make me have a lot more fun being a fan of the material, you know? So thank you guys. And thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to be a part of it. Special thank you to all of you guys who sent in your observations and thoughts and questions and stuff like that, because not only did you give us great fun things to talk about, but you supported the channel while you did it. And all of us involved here with the John Campea channel, thank you guys very, very much for that. Okay, guys, we got a couple of companion videos coming this weekend. One for the companion videos for the John Campea Show. 2, we got the follow-up video for this WandaVision thing. Both of those coming this weekend. Then, of course, the John Campea Show returns on Monday. We hope you guys will come and join us for that. Okay, guys, that will do it for now. Remember, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. So, guys, until our next adventure together, and we're one day closer to when the great and misunderstood Director Hayward becomes the new leader of the Avengers, my name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.